Chapter 508. When it came to recruiting talents, Sect leader June would spare no effort. However, Princess Red Lotus smiled politely and said, "Sect leader June, we have arrived at the Heavenly Mandate Academy." Oh? June Changshao looked up. Only then did he realize that there was a magnificent building in front of him. The words Heavenly Mandate Academy were engraved on it, exuding an ancient and dignified aura. Very impressive. June Changshao couldn't help but say. The Vice Dean said proudly, "The Heavenly Mandate Academy has a history of 5,300 years. The number of strong cultivators we have nurtured is as numerous as the sand in the galaxy." In fact, this was also a form of posturing. As an established academy, they had the right to be pretentious. Sect leader June, the Vice Dean said, "Please. Please." June Changshao stepped into the Heavenly Mandate Academy with a long history. As soon as he walked in, his spiritual senses detected that many youths were gathered in the huge field. These people were around his age, and their temperament and cultivation were very good. Southwest Yangzhou, the cradle of martial arts, lived up to its reputation. June Changshao thought to himself, "If I recruit disciples here and bring them back to the sect for training, they can all become pillars of the sect." Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a heavy aura suddenly appeared in the distance, and a palm print condensed in mid-air and pressed down mercilessly. The students who were cultivating in the field sensed it and looked over. Oh my god! It's a saint-grade martial technique, Void Palm. Whoosh whoosh. The palm print whistled over like a dark cloud covering the sky. Although the power was very strong, it didn't contain any killing intent. This made June Changshao conclude that the strong cultivators of the academy must be testing him. Interesting. The corner of his mouth curled up in a smile, and he took a step forward. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, scorching flames erupted, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Whoosh! June Changshao raised his right hand, and the spreading flames suddenly condensed together, forming an energy similar to blade qi. What pure flames! The students in the distance exclaimed. There was no lack of talented fire elemental martial cultivators, but compared to June Changshao's flames, they were definitely inferior and ashamed. Not only them. Even Princess Red Lotus, who possessed a fire spirit body, was shocked when she saw June Changshao release his flames. It wasn't that she hadn't seen a martial king level fire martial cultivator before, but to be able to explode flames to such an extent, this was definitely an extreme level of comprehension. Even though sect leader June rarely comprehended the fire element on his own, his understanding of the fire element was at the Grandmaster level. Why? This was because both the Alchemy Pavilion and the Smithing Pavilion required flames to operate. Every time he refined an elixir or a weapon, his understanding of flames would increase. In the past year or so, sect leader June had refined a lot of pills and weapons. Naturally, his understanding of flames had also improved greatly. Refining martial arts resources with one key could also increase one's proficiency in the fire element. It was confirmed that she had cheated. Hoo-hoo! Scorching flames erupted, and the temperature was still rising rapidly. June Changshao made a chopping motion with his right hand and shouted, "Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Cut." Huff! The flames turned into blade aura and slashed down fiercely with explosive power. The waves of fire and the air clashed violently, and the entire space seemed to be distorted. The last time he used the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Cut was when he took Long Xiang to the Long family to participate in the clan tournament. Now that he had become the dual king of sword and martial arts, the power produced when he used this move again could be described as shocking. Hiss! Seeing the space being distorted by the heat, the students of the Heavenly Mandate Academy gasped in shock. At that moment, no one paid attention to the void palm that was pressing down. All eyes were locked on the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Cut. This was because whether it was the power or the momentum, it could be seen at a glance. Boom! The flame cut and the giant palm collided violently. The explosive power of the former directly cut the latter in half. Even more valiant was that the area where the scarlet sky raging flame cut was actually scorched black. From the perspective of the students, it was as if the space had been directly cut open. Powerful. Too powerful. Who was this young man who was similar in age to them? How could he have such a terrifying cultivation? Princess Red Lotus was also astonished. To be able to directly break the saint-level void palm, the level of the martial arts technique he used must be extremely high. Could it be? Princess Red Lotus was shocked. Is it a divine-level fire elemental martial arts technique? Strictly speaking, the mid-level divine-level Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Cut was not a fire elemental martial arts technique. Ordinary martial arts cultivators could also cultivate it. However, if they had a fire elemental attribute, it would be very beneficial for their cultivation and execution. Whoosh whoosh. At that moment, in the void where the mark was left, a vast power erupted again. In an instant, two giant palm prints were condensed and pressed down in a rush. Still probing? Jun Changshao shook his head. Once again, he condensed scorching flames and slashed out two scarlet sky raging flame cuts. Although it looked casual, its power was equally explosive. Boom! Boom! Flames erupted, and heat waves swept across. In the sky above the Heavenly Mandate Academy, 3 traces of flames were left. It was as if 3 cracks had been torn open. The students were stunned speechless. For someone of the same age as him to be able to explode with such power and break through the void palm so easily, this was simply too terrifying. Students who could enter the Heavenly Mandate Academy were all talented and proud. However, when they witnessed Jun Changxiao's attack with their own eyes, there was only one word in their hearts: admiration. Ha ha ha. At that moment, a sloppy-looking old man appeared in their field of vision. He stroked his beard and said, "You have such rich spiritual energy at such a young age. No wonder you are the leader of the Iron Bone clan who dares to go against the Xinjiang County." Although this person's eyes were cloudy, the aura around him was very strong. Jun Changshao immediately judged that his cultivation was at least at the peak of the martial lord realm. The leader of the Iron Bone clan? He is Jun Changshao. The eyes of the students of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were burning. He had won more than 70 battles on the Sacred Spring Mountain, destroyed 4 evil sects in a row in Huayang County, set up a life and death arena at the foot of the mountain, and destroyed the White Tiger Corps outside Qingyang City. Any of these things that Iron Bone had done could cause a huge sensation in southwest Yangzhou. The students of the academy had naturally heard of them. To be exact, they had heard of him like thunder. They often talked about him and worshipped him. Seeing Princess Red Lotus, Lu Wancher was so excited that she turned into a little fangirl. Many students of the academy also turned into little fangirls and fanboys when they learned of Jun Changxiao's identity. A person of the same age as them could do so many great things. This would definitely make many young people feel a strong sense of admiration. In a short time, Master Jun's position was surrounded by students of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They were just short of taking out their light sticks to cheer for their idol. "Master!" Lu Wancher transmitted her voice, "You are so popular." Jun Changshao was also very surprised. However, he said calmly, "The eyes of the masses are bright. They naturally know who is the strongest and who to worship." Chapter 509. In the Falling Star continent, martial arts were respected. The Iron Bone clan leader, who was about the same age as him, was powerful and had done so many things. Naturally, he was admired by the students of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. However, most of the people who admired Jun Changshao were ordinary students. The real geniuses did not appear. Instead, they stood in the distance and watched. Their faces were a little red and ugly. The higher-ups of the academy invited Jun Changshao, and they learned about it in advance through various channels. Many of them were proud and arrogant. They were waiting for the arrival of the Iron Bone clan leader. They wanted to fight with him and see if he was as strong as the rumors said. The protagonist came to the academy and was targeted by various geniuses. This was definitely the most common plot. However, what surprised the geniuses of the academy was that the higher-ups of the academy first sent a peak martial king to test him. He even used the holy grade martial technique, void palm. He was just the leader of a sect. Wasn't his probing a little too high? When Jun Changshao unleashed his fire element and broke the first void palm, these geniuses widened their eyes. Then, he broke the last two moves one after another. They were completely dumbfounded. That guy was really terrifying. If the higher-ups did not make a move and they challenged him, they would definitely be overestimating themselves. Young Master Chu, didn't you say you wanted to spar with clan leader Jun? In the pavilion by the pond, a student smiled lazily. The man called young Master Chu's mouth twitched. There were also a few other students of the academy gathered here. They were all extraordinary and imposing. Since the establishment of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, there had been a hero list. Those who could enter the list were all talented people. These were the geniuses on the hero list. They were ranked very high. If the higher-ups of the academy did not send a peak martial king to test him, they might have fought with clan leader Jun. A genius student said bitterly, I didn't expect this person to be so powerful. We are as weak as ants in front of him. The lazy youth grinned and said, I said from the beginning that the Iron Bone sect leader is not simple to be able to do so many things. You didn't believe me and insisted on bickering with me. Now it's time to slap your faces. Humph. The man called young Master Chu snorted and then turned to leave. The other geniuses on the hero ranking also left. Many people secretly rejoiced that it was fortunate that the higher-ups of the academy had made a move first to test the waters. Otherwise, if they were to fight Jun Changshao, they would definitely embarrass themselves in public. Surrounded by a group of fans, Jun Changshao wore a cap, a pair of sunglasses, and a mask. Escorted by several bodyguards in black, he entered the reception hall of the school from the airport, looking like a superstar. Sect Master Jun, the vice president said, please wait for a moment. With that, he cupped his hands and left. Jun Changshao carefully examined the interior and found that there were many portraits of ancient people hanging on the walls. There were also detailed introductions. Princess Red Lotus's eyes were filled with admiration as she said, these seniors are all cultivators and nurtured by the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Even the weakest of them is at the level of Wu Huan. Jun Changshao was astonished. There were at least 20 portraits hanging on the wall. In other words, the Heavenly Mandate Academy had nurtured more than 20 Wu Huangs over the years. Awesome indeed. Princess. Jun Changshao asked curiously, how many students are there in the Heavenly Mandate Academy? 16,000, Princess Red Lotus said. Only 16,000? Jun Changshao thought that such a great academy with such a heritage would have at least 100,000 students. Princess Red Lotus said, to enter the academy, one must not only have extremely high martial arts aptitude, but also fit the recruitment period. Therefore, there are not many students. Oh. Jun Changshao responded and said, are these students not affiliated with any sects? They are not affiliated with any sects, Princess Red Lotus said. The Heavenly Mandate Academy's external recruitment targets were ordinary youths or direct descendants of clans. They would not recruit those who belonged to any sections. Jun Changshao said, since they are not affiliated with any sects, the academy won't object to me recruiting disciples here, right? No objection, Princess Red Lotus said. Jun Changshao thought to himself, with so many students idolizing me, I will definitely be able to recruit many in a while. But Princess Red Lotus added, if you want to recruit disciples in the academy, you need to obtain approval from the higher-ups. Understood, Jun Changshao said. Princess Red Lotus said casually, Sect leader Jun used a fire elemental martial arts technique just now, right? She could have left with the deputy headmaster, but she stayed here because she was interested in the Crimson Sky Raging Flame Slash. Ah. Jun Changshao said, you can say so. Princess Red Lotus said enviously, to be able to break the void palm, Sect leader Jun's martial arts technique must be of high quality. It's alright. Jun Changshao thought to himself, it seems that this woman is interested in the crimson sky raging flame slash. At this moment, an old man with the demeanor of a transcendent being walked in from outside. The aura he exuded was extremely dense. Headmaster. Princess Red Lotus hurriedly stood up and greeted him. The person who came was the current headmaster of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Situ Haoyan. Jun Changshao thought to himself, what is this person's cultivation level? The system said, there is some kind of energy that conceals his cultivation level. It cannot be analyzed. Jun Changshao was secretly shocked. For the system to be unable to analyze his cultivation level, could it be that the headmaster of the Heavenly Mandate Academy had reached the level of Wusheng? Sect leader Jun Situ Haoyan smiled and said, you are a promising young man. Jun Changshao stood up and cupped his hands. Jun Changshao admires teachers the most in this life. In that case. Situ Haoyan smiled and said, why don't sect leader Jun stay in the academy and be a teacher? This headmaster was very direct. Be a teacher? Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Jun Changshao still has to take care of the sect. I don't have time to teach students. Situ Haoyan said, the sect can be handed over to others to manage. You can come to the academy to teach students and nurture more geniuses. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wonderful my ass. I have to develop the sect with a bomb on my back. If I really come to be a teacher, I will definitely be done for. Princess Red Lotus said, sect leader Jun is knowledgeable and has high attainments in martial arts. If you can work in the academy, it will be a blessing for Southwest Yangzhou. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. At this moment, he finally realized that the Heavenly Mandate Academy invited him to be a teacher. It would be good enough if he didn't recruit all of your outstanding students into the sect. You actually want me to give up being a leader and become a teacher? Sect leader Jun Situ Haoyan said, the Heavenly Mandate Academy welcomes you. Sorry. Jun Changshao declined. Jun Changshao is devoted to the sect and has no intention of becoming a teacher. Situ Haoyan spared no effort in recruiting. If sect leader Jun can work in the academy, you will definitely be a gold medal teacher. Sect leader Jun, Princess Red Lotus followed. The Heavenly Mandate Academy has a pivotal position in the Falling Star continent. The status of a gold medal teacher is no less than that of a leader of a third-rate sect. Moreover, she paused and continued, the martial arts resources in the academy are comparable to that of a first-rate sect. She was not only a student of the Heavenly Mandate Academy but also a princess of the Imperial City. Naturally, she hoped to keep the sword and martial kings. Jun Changshao's expression became interesting. Come on. Shouldn't I be the one to persuade others to join in the plot? Chapter 510. Jun Changshao came to the Heavenly Mandate Academy with the intention of recruiting disciples, but he was recruited by the Dean and Princess Red Lotus first. This was awkward. The Heavenly Mandate Academy's power and resources were definitely stronger than those of Iron Bone. If Jun Changshao became an instructor of the academy, he would definitely make a profit. But he had to refuse. There was no other way. There was a soul bomb in the space ring, so he couldn't give up on the sect. Besides, being an instructor was equivalent to being confined to the academy, which was far less free than being the leader of a sect. Dean, Princess. Jun Changshao said seriously, Jun is devoted to the sect and will not be an instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Situ Haoyan said, won't you consider it? No, Jun Changshao said. Sigh. Situ Haoyan sighed and said, it's a loss for the Heavenly Mandate Academy and Southwest Yangzhou if sect leader Jun doesn't become an instructor. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. This damned old man, he thought too highly of himself. Dean. He clasped his hands and said, in fact, there is no difference between teaching students in the academy and teaching students elsewhere. Situ Haoyan said, what do you mean? Jun Changshao said, the aptitude of the students in the academy is very good. If they enter Iron Bone to cultivate, they will definitely become the cream of the crop. It was Situ Haoyan's turn to twitch his mouth. I recruited you as an instructor, but you were thinking about the students in the academy. Besides, Jun Changshao said confidently, the students will graduate one day and enter society. My iron bone has unlimited potential and is definitely worth joining. Sorry. Let's see who is better at bluffing. I won't back down. Situ Haoyan smiled and said, the students have their own choices. Whether they join Iron Bone or not, I can't make the decision. The Heavenly Mandate Academy only taught students martial arts and naturally did not interfere in other matters. That was exactly the case. On the streets outside the academy, there were many sects' offices. Every day, they tried their best to recruit students who did not belong to any sect. Dean Jun Changshao said, Jun wishes to recruit disciples from the academy. Please approve. It's possible. Situ Haoyan said, however, I have a request. What is it? Jun Changshao asked. Situ Haoyan smiled and said, since clan leader Jun has no intention of joining the Heavenly Mandate Academy, why don't you become an honorary teacher? Ha! Jun Changshao was stunned. Situ Haoyan said, Sect Master Jun doesn't have to stay in the academy all the time. You can come here occasionally to teach the students. This, Jun Changshao began to ponder. Besides, Situ Haoyan continued, although you're a mentor in name, you still enjoy the benefits of a formal mentor and receive a fixed amount of spirit stones every month. Sure, Jun Changshao said. The system, this guy must have agreed so decisively because of the spirit stones. Damn. He was still the sect leader of the Iron Bone Upright sect. A few spirit stones made him lose his principles. Bah. Sect Master Jun agreed to be an honorary teacher, but he had to make it clear in advance that there was not enough time. He might not come to the academy for a few months or even a few years. No problem, Situ Haoyan said. He agreed to this. Was he so charming? Just as Jun Changshao was muttering in his heart, Situ Haoyan smiled and said, Sect Master Jun should have time now to give the students some pointers. He really had the time. Red Lotus. Situ Haoyan said, take Sect Master Jun to the Juying Hall. Yes. Princess Red Lotus smiled and said, Sect Master Jun, please. In order to obtain the right to recruit students, Jun Changshao became an honorary teacher of the Heavenly Mandate Academy and enjoyed the benefits of a formal mentor. If this were to spread, people would be envious. One had to know that the teachers of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were highly respected by the world. With this status, they would be treated as distinguished guests in any city in southwest Yangzhou. So here was the problem. Was Sect Master Jun qualified to be a teacher? Situ Haoyan asked him to teach the students now because he wanted to observe. Sect Master Jun, Princess Red Lotus led Jun Changshao and Lu Wancher in the corridor and said, we are going to the Juying Hall. Oh. Sect Master Jun nodded. Princess Red Lotus said, the Juying Hall is the highest standard school in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. There are many extraordinary geniuses. Is that so? Jun Changshao's interest was piqued. If he could pick geniuses from the Juying Hall and take them in, he would be delighted. Princess Red Lotus continued, however, these geniuses are all proud and arrogant people. Ordinary teachers may not be able to gain their recognition. Ha! Jun Changshao said, Princess Red Lotus, do you mean that the students of the Juying Hall are all troublemakers? You can think of it that way, Princess Red Lotus said. Jun Changshao smiled faintly and said, since I, Jun Changshao, am a teacher, there are no students that I cannot control. The Juying Hall was located in the picturesque South Academy. There were other schools in it. It could be said that it was the gathering place of the top geniuses of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They had just entered the academy. The students they casually met were all level 7 or 8 martial masters. Not bad, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher, who was following behind, had a calm expression. She said to herself, these students are far inferior to second brother and the others. Princess Red Lotus led the two of them and stopped in front of the Juying Hall. She said, "Sect Master Jun, this is the Juying Hall." "Yes." Jun Changshao stepped in. The Juying Hall was not too big. It was about 200 square meters. There were many tables and chairs in a mess. Dozens of students in uniform were whispering to each other. Among them were the students who had appeared in the pavilion by the pond. When Jun Changshao walked in, everyone turned to look at him. Their eyes were filled with surprise. "Young Master Chu." Someone whispered, "Why is he here?" Young Master Chu put his legs on the table. The corners of his mouth curled up in disdain. Sitting next to him, a lazy youth who seemed to have never woken up grinned and said, "Sect Master Jun, why are you here at the Juying Hall?" "To guide you in martial arts." Jun Changshao stood on the podium with his hands behind his back. He glanced at the students present. When he saw young Master Chu, who had his legs on the table, looking sloppy, he thought to himself, "This should be a troublemaker. Guide us in martial arts?" The students in the Juying Hall immediately laughed. "Sect Master Jun," young Master Chu said calmly, "although you are very strong, I'm afraid you are not qualified to guide us. I'll have to trouble this student to put your legs down and put your hands on the table." Jun Changshao said with a smile. Young Master Chu said proudly, "This is what I like to do." Whoosh. Jun Changshao appeared in front of him. He grabbed his collar and pressed him to the ground with a bang. This sudden attack was too fast. The students in the Juying Hall did not notice it at all. When they saw young Master Chu being pressed to the ground, they were all dumbfounded. "Kid," Jun Changshao said with a cold gaze, "the first lesson I will teach you today is how to respect your teacher." "You?" Young Master Chu's eyes were filled with anger. Whoosh! Jun Changshao lifted him up and tossed him aside, causing him to crash into the wall. Then, he swept his gaze over the stupefied students and said in a deep voice, "Remember, when you speak to me, the first thing you call me is Teacher Jun." Chapter 511. Juying Hall. It was meant to gather all the heroes in the world. There were a total of 39 students in this hall. Although it couldn't be compared to the hundreds of other halls, each of them had a prominent status. For example, the seemingly sleepy young man was the young master of the Hua family, one of the 8 major families in the imperial city. Most of the others were direct descendants of the families in other counties. Mu Honglian, the princess of the imperial city, was one of the students of Juying Hall. However, she was about to graduate and rarely came to the hall for routine classes. Not counting her, the student with the highest status in Juying Hall was Chu Xiaonan. He came from the Chu family, the head of the 8 major families in the imperial city. It was precisely because of the prominent status of the students of Juying Hall that no teachers were willing to teach them because they were all existences that they couldn't afford to offend. Moreover, they were all proud and arrogant, boasting that they were extraordinary. They didn't care about ordinary teachers at all and would chase away anyone who came. This batch of Juying Hall students were the best in terms of aptitude and were the most difficult to discipline. Situ Haoyun had a splitting headache. Over time, he could only let them develop on their own. When Jun Changshao agreed to be an honorary teacher, he decided to let him try. "Dean." The vice dean frowned and said, "Jun Changshao likes to cause trouble. I'm afraid that something big will happen if he instructs the students of Juying Hall." Boom! Boom! At this moment, a deafening sound was heard. The ground and furniture trembled. "What's the situation?" The vice dean's expression changed. He released his spiritual senses to spy in the direction of the sound and finally locked onto Juying Hall in the southern district. In the hall, Jun Changshao punched the wall wildly with both fists. Whoosh whoosh, psionic power exploded and the airwaves roared. A moment later, Sect leader Jun stopped. After everything dissipated, the wall was densely cracked. Chu Xiaonan was sunken in it. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He was foaming at the mouth. Dean! The vice dean said in shock, that guy beat Chu Xiaonan. Really? Situ Haoyan laughed. The dean was laughing. He could still laugh. The vice dean said in a low voice, if a teacher beats a student, it will definitely affect the reputation of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Dean, why did you leave? I'm a little sleepy. Let's sleep. The vice dean was left hanging on the spot. His expression was extremely interesting. He thought to himself, are they going to let Jun Changshao do whatever he wants in the academy? When Situ Haoyan walked out of the meeting hall, he sighed and said, if it weren't for my status as the dean, I would have beaten up that Chu clan's direct descendant. Shua! Jun Changshao stepped on the chair with one foot and said with a cold gaze, you dare to whisper in my ear during my class. You have no respect for your elders. You will end up like this brat. Everyone shuddered, and their eyes were filled with shock. Without saying a word, he pulled young Master Chu out and beat him up. This guy was really ruthless. Paw! A student slammed the table and raged, Jun Changshao, you're not fit to be an instructor for bullying students like this. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jun Changshao's fist landed directly on his face, and his whole body crashed into the wall like a cannonball. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Jun Changshao retracted his fist and said in an indisputable tone, anyone who doubts me must suffer the iron fist of love. Princess Red Lotus was speechless. Was he here to guide students or to beat them up? This is too much. Boom! I want to complain. Boom! I would rather die than be humiliated. Boom! In just a moment, more than 10 students who had opinions about sect leader Jun in the assembly hall all suffered his iron fist of love. That feeling was exhilarating. Paw! Jun Changshao returned to the podium and glanced at the other students coldly. He said in a cold voice, freedom of speech. Anyone who has opinions about me can speak up. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently. Freedom of speech was free, but if they had opinions about you, they would definitely be beaten up. Tell me loudly. Jun Changshao shouted, who else has opinions? The lazy young man stood up from his chair and shouted, Teacher Tsang Jun, I have no objections. Remove the word Tsang. Teacher Tsang, I have no objections. Boom! Jun Changshao sent him flying with a punch and roared, I said to remove the word Tsang, not Jun. Ming! The young man fell from the wall and foamed at the mouth. I understand. In Jun Changshao's opinion, the so-called assembly hall was just the giant infant hall. If he wanted to guide them, he had to first beat them until they were obedient. The effect was not bad. After the students who had opinions were beaten up, they sat upright like obedient babies. To be honest, they were just asking for a beating. A beating would be enough. Although Chu Xiaonan's eyes were filled with hatred, he still sat upright with a big bump on his head. He thought to himself, despicable fellow, I will remember this. Jun Changshao said, it is your supreme honor that I took the time to guide you in martial arts. TSK. The students despised him in their hearts. They recognized Jun Changshao's strength. After all, he was a sword and martial arts king. But to be a teacher, he did not rely on martial arts, but martial arts. A person who was about the same age as them, even if his cultivation was outstanding, how could he have the experience to guide them in martial arts? The students of the assembly hall did not approve of Jun Changshao. Most of them did not want to admit that he knew martial arts and martial arts. Otherwise, it would be too much of a blow to their self-esteem. Time is limited. Jun Changshao said, if you have any problems in martial arts, you can raise them. I will answer them one by one. Teacher Jun. Huo Ling, who was lazy before, was now full of energy, said, I have a problem in martial arts that I would like to consult you on. Speak. Jun Changshao said. Huo Ling told him about the trouble he had encountered in martial arts. Sect leader Jun, who had crushed the insight talisman, explained to him seriously from the incantation to the method of operation. I see. I see. Huoling was enlightened, his eyes filled with admiration. After Teacher Jun's guidance, this student is enlightened. Humph, Chu Xiaonan snorted in a low voice and thought to himself, what a spineless fellow. Teacher Jun. A student said, I also have some doubts about martial arts. Speak. Teacher Jun, I also have some doubts. Teacher Jun, a few students asked questions one after another. Sect leader Jun did not refuse any of them. He explained to them one by one, enlightening them and enlightening them. Princess Red Lotus, who had been standing outside, had a look of surprise in her eyes. She thought to herself, as the rumors say, his martial arts attainments are extremely high. Teacher Jun. At this moment, Chu Xiaonan said indifferently, you are so knowledgeable. The disciples you nurture must be very strong, right? Of course, Jun Changshao said. Chu Xiaonan said indifferently, I wonder if there is a chance to spar with an iron bone disciple? Ugh. This kid actually dares to challenge my disciple. He is really bold. Chapter 512. Chu Xiaonan wanted to challenge an iron bone disciple. Unfortunately, sect leader Jun didn't bring Li Qingyang and the others. Otherwise, he would be taught a lesson. The aptitude of the Juying Hall's students wasn't bad, but their cultivation wasn't good. The average level was only a 5th or 6th grade martial master. Not to mention the iron bone inner disciples, even the outer disciples could beat them to a pulp. Sect leader. At this moment, Lu Wancher, who had been standing outside the hall, said, I'm willing to spar with him. That's right. There was still Du. Although he was a chef in iron bone, he was still a disciple. Kid. Jun Changshao said, I'll give you a chance to challenge my iron bone disciple. Looking at the girl who was only 11 or 12 years old, Chu Xiaonan felt humiliated, so he said angrily, Teacher Jun, do you think Chu Xiaonan will challenge a little girl? Jun Changshao shook his head and said, you can't win against her. Can't win against her? Chu Xiaonan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, Teacher Jun, don't underestimate me. He was a direct descendant of the Chu clan, the head of the 8 major clans in the capital. He had the best spiritual root. If he couldn't win against a little girl, was he worthy of being a martial cultivator? You don't believe me? Jun Changshao said, fight with my disciple and you'll know. Okay. Chu Xiaonan stood up and said angrily, let's fight. Although he knew that winning against this little girl wasn't worth showing off, he couldn't let the Iron Bone sect leader look down on him. Men. They should have dignity that couldn't be blasphemed. Circle it and wait for the test. Teacher Jun actually let a little girl fight with young Master Chu. Isn't this looking for a beating? I heard that the Iron Bone disciples are very strong, but if such a little girl can win against young Master Chu, that would be strange. In my opinion, Teacher Jun is deliberately angering young Master Chu. There was a small martial arts practice field outside the Juying Hall. At this moment, Huo Ling and the others were standing beside it and whispering. From their words, it wasn't hard to see that they didn't think highly of Lu Wancher. That was true. So young, and a girl. It was a little unrealistic to spar with the Chu clan's outstanding. Beep beep. Jun Changshao transmitted his voice, he is a 6th grade martial master. Do you have the confidence to defeat him? I'm confident. Although Lu Wancher was only a rank 4 martial master, she relied on the sect's resources and martial arts facilities to raise her cultivation. More importantly, when Lu Qianqian was in the sect, she taught her a lot of martial arts. Unfortunately, our little lowly Lu was always in contact with food and had almost never fought. It was very easy for people to forget that she was actually an authentic armament cultivator. Who? Lu Wancher took a deep breath. She raised her head to look at the sky and said, Senior brothers, this is the first time Dudu is fighting with someone. You must protect me. If Li Qingyang and the others heard this, they would definitely fall to the ground. Lass! We're still alive, so what are you looking up at? Can we begin? On the practice field, Chu Xiaonan was already prepared, but impatience hung on his face. Wait. Lu Wancher said, I'll eat something first. As she spoke, she took out a bowl of strength fried rice from her interspatial ring and began to eat. The Assembly of Heroes Hall students were stunned. Eating before a battle, was she so particular? However, everyone sniffed the smell of the fried rice and secretly exclaimed, it's so fragrant. After eating the fried rice, Lu Wancher's body was filled with strength. She then waved her small hand and said with battle intent, we can begin. Shwa! Just as she finished speaking, Chu Xiaonan used his movement technique and rushed over. Spiritual energy gathered in his palms. Xiao, a shockwave-like energy burst out. Self-slash. Lu Wancher raised her hand and slashed down. A crescent-shaped flowing light flew out close to the ground and collided with the shockwave. Chu Xiaonan's eyes were filled with surprise. This little girl could actually use spirit force-type martial arts so skillfully. It seemed that she had some ability. Shwa! 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 Lu Wancher's two hands kept waving. One after another, self-slash burst out. Oh my god! The Assembly of Heroes Hall students widened their eyes. A 12-year-old girl was able to use spirit force-type martial arts without restraint. How much spiritual energy did she have in her dantian? Not good. Chu Xiaonan frowned and used his movement technique to dodge. Pang! 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 Self-slash flew past him and hit the stone floor. Chu Xiaonan stabilized his body and said, at such a young age, you have such strength. Not bad. Shwa! Lu Wancher used cloud-treading steps and rushed over like a petite elf. At the same time, she used landslide fist. Boom! Although Chu Xiaonan dodged, the energy that blasted past him shocked him. Self-slash! Boom! Lu Wancher took this opportunity to use spirit force-type martial arts that consumed very little. She successfully blasted Chu Xiaonan's back and forced him back a few steps. Damn it! Young Master Chu was furious. However, just as he stabilized his body, he felt the wind whistling and a few more flowing lights burst out. Pang! Pang! Boom! 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 The petite Lu Wancher used her sect's martial arts. Sometimes she used landslide fist and sometimes she used self-slash. Her attacks were very impressive. Chu Xiaonan fell into a passive state and couldn't make an effective counterattack. He finally found a flaw in Lu Wancher's attacks and used a tricky angle to attack. In the end, the other's body was covered in rainbow-colored armor. When he hit it, he felt numb from the impact. The spirit armor turned into a rainbow color, which suited the little Loli's cute young girl heart. Shwa! Shwa! Lu Wancher used cloud-treading steps and circled behind Chu Xiaonan. She used landslide fist and landslide fist. Ping thump, thump, thump. Chu Xiaonan retreated a dozen steps and almost fell on his butt. This wasn't a weak little Loli that could be pushed down easily. This was King Kong Barbie. Hualing and the others stared with their eyes wide open and their mouths agape. A little girl had such strength. Wouldn't an adult Iron Bone disciple be even more terrifying? Very terrifying. Any one of them would be able to beat the geniuses of Assembly of Heroes Hall. Boom! Lu Wancher used cloud-treading steps and rushed over again. She used landslide fist and hit Chu Xiaonan from the east to the west. After 2 punches, young Master Chu was at an absolute disadvantage. What awaited him was being beaten up by Loli Lu. Pang! Pang! On the martial arts field, Chu Xiaonan was being beaten by Lu Wancher. Outside the martial arts field, the mouths of the Assembly of Heroes Hall students twitched. At that moment, the pride between their brows and the pride in their bones gradually dissipated under Lu Wancher's punches. Jun Changshao crossed his arms and shook his head. You can't even beat Du. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of the seat? Actually, Chu Xiaonan had both talent and strength. He was completely beaten by Lu Wancher in terms of martial arts. Princess Red Lotus said, Sect Master June being able to raise such an outstanding disciple is truly admirable. This was admirable. If they see the inner disciples of my Ironbone sect, wouldn't their admiration for me be like the endless torrential river, or like the overflowing yellow river that can't be controlled? Du Jun Changshao said, that's enough. N. Lu Wancher punched Chu Shunan's back, knocking him out of the martial arts field. He fell to the ground in pain. Thank you for letting me win. The little girl imitated Second's senior brother and cupped her hands. Jun Changshao said, who else wants to spar with my Ironbone disciple? Huo Ling and the others were silent. Me. A voice came from behind. At the entrance of the south courtyard, a man in black walked over. Princess Red Lotus said in surprise, why is he here? Who? Jun Changshao said with interest. Princess Red Lotus said, 10th on the hero ranking, Jing Wugo. Chapter 513. Hero List. Jun Changshao had never heard of it before. Princess Red Lotus said, it's a comprehensive ranking of cultivation and strength in our academy. It's similar to the Gathering of Heroes list on the Falling Star continent. I see. Jun Changshao looked at Jing Wugo, who was walking over, and said with a smile, this person should be quite capable. Princess Red Lotus said, students who can enter the top 10 of the hero list can also enter the Gathering of Heroes list. Is that so? This surprised Jun Changshao. Jiang Shenxi, a disciple of the Qian sect, whom he had met at Mount Hua, was ranked 89th in the Earth class. If the top 10 of the hero list could enter the Earth class, their strength and aptitude must be extraordinary. It's Senior Jing. Isn't he in seclusion? Why did he come out? Judging from his aura, he seems to have broken through to Wuzong. The students of the Gathering Heroes Hall were filled with admiration. Only the seniors ranked in the top 10 of the hero roll could make them worship them so willingly. Under everyone's gaze, Jing Wugo stopped. His long hair fluttered, revealing his fair face. He said, Sect Leader June, I want to challenge your sect's junior. Bang! The iron fist of love landed on his face and sent him flying to the outer wall. Remember. Jun Changshao clenched his fist and said in a deep voice, call me Teacher June. Jing Wugo, who was stuck in the wall, said in a weak voice, I understand. Huo Ling and the others' mouths twitched. This teacher was too scary to be violent without a word. Those Ironbone upright sect disciples must be living in an abyss of suffering. In fact, it was the opposite. Kid. Jun Changshao said indifferently, I only brought one disciple. If you want to challenge, go to the Ironbone Mountain yourself. This genius ranked 10th on the hero list was quite strong. He definitely couldn't let Lu Wancher fight with him. Okay. Jing Wugo came down from the wall and rubbed his swollen face. He said with a determined gaze, I will go to the Ironbone Mountain. If a little girl could defeat Junior Chu, those older Ironbone school disciples must be stronger. He had to go and meet them no matter what. A genius with extraordinary aptitude. It wasn't for the protagonist to slap their faces. They were also obsessed with martial arts and were more willing to compete with powerful opponents. However, if Jing Wugo really went to the Ironbone, he would definitely be tortured to the point where he would have no self-esteem left. Because when he stepped into the sect, he would deeply understand that the disciples of this sect were all monsters, all monsters. We can only pray for him in silence that he can leave the mountain safely. Continue with the class. Jun Changshao shouted. Shua! Shua! Huo Ling and the others hurriedly returned to the classroom and sat in front of the table. The dizzy Chu Shonan also sat down. At this moment, his inviolable dignity as a man had been crushed to pieces, and he wanted nothing more than to lie on the table and wail. He couldn't even beat Lu Wancher, and he actually wanted to challenge Jun Changshao when he came to the academy. Were all the direct descendants of the big clans so arrogant? Sect leader Jun, who had crushed the clear vision talisman, seriously answered the students' questions regarding martial arts. Since he had agreed to be an honorary instructor, he would love to do whatever he wanted. Students from other schools in the Southern District heard the news and gathered outside the Jueying Hall, fighting to be the first to ask difficult questions about martial arts. In a short time, hundreds of students gathered outside the classroom, including the instructors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. At first, they were curious about how high a young man of 18 or 19 years old could be in martial arts. When they saw Jun Changxiao's guidance, they were full of admiration. Any martial technique, any mental cultivation method, could be analyzed from inside to outside, from outside to inside, and provide the correct guidance to it. He was definitely a master of martial arts. Princess Red Lotus murmured, "Iron Bone could rise in such a short time. It is not without reason." "Miss Liu," she asked curiously, "did sect leader Jun teach you this in the sect?" "Ha!" Lu Wancher was so excited that her idol suddenly talked to her that her little heart was beating wildly. Then she stuttered, No, sect leader was very busy and almost never taught me." This was true. In the sect, Jun Changxiao really did not teach the disciples other than supervising their training. It was not that he was unwilling to use the talisman of insight, but the disciples were all practicing systematic martial arts, and there was no way to observe. Fortunately, most of the systematic martial arts techniques were easy to learn, and Iron Bone disciples could be self-taught. Princess Red Lotus was very surprised. To be able to defeat Chu Xiaonan without any guidance, how did he do it? Iron Bone's specialty was not that they had a master of martial arts to teach them, but that they had various resources and facilities to help them grow. Of course. As the Ning brothers became elders, they also had strong masters to teach them. 2 hours later, the effect of the second talisman of insight dissipated. Jun Changxiao said loudly, "Students, today's guidance ends here. Class dismissed." Whoosh! Huo Ling and the others stood up and said loudly, "Teacher Jun, thank you for your hard work. You are teachable, teachable." Jun Changxiao nodded with satisfaction and strode out of the classroom. The students outside made way for him, and their eyes were filled with strong admiration. Outside the sports field, he defeated the void palm of the academy's higher-ups. Now, he was teaching them with profound martial arts techniques. Their admiration was like an endless river. On the way back to the reception hall, Princess Red Lotus said, "Sect leader Jun's understanding of martial arts is really deep. It's all right." Jun Changxiao smiled gently and elegantly. Speaking of which, why did he not recruit Princess Red Lotus? There was no need. He had first displayed powerful martial arts techniques, and then displayed his strong martial arts attainments. If she was not moved, then it would be useless no matter how much he tried to convince her. Sect leader Jun, Princess Red Lotus smiled and said, "Miss Liu is so powerful under your guidance at such a young age. I am very curious. Those disciples at Iron Bone must be even stronger. My disciples are all good-for-nothings. They can't be compared to the students at the Heavenly Mandate Academy," Jun Changxiao said. "Sect leader Jun is too humble." Princess Red Lotus said, "As far as I know, the inner disciples of your sect, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and Yi Xingchen, are all very outstanding geniuses." Jun Changxiao stopped and smiled. "I am flattered that Princess Red Lotus knows so much about my Iron Bone." The two of them looked at each other, and the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Princess Red Lotus blinked and smiled. "Sect leader Jun, please rest assured. I am just curious about your sect. I have no ill intentions." "I hope so." Jun Changxiao shrugged and started walking. Princess Red Lotus was silent. She thought to herself, "Is he warning me? Sect leader Jun, the students of my Jueying clan are not bad, right?" Situ Haoyun, who had just taken a nap, walked into the reception hall and said with a smile, "You are such a bad old man. You purposely made me teach a bunch of troublemakers. As expected of a famous great academy. The students you recruit are all moldable geniuses." Sect leader Jun said politely. Situ Haoyun smiled and said, since that is the case, Sect leader Jun will teach the students of Juying clan. No problem. Jun Changshao said, however, Jun would like to emphasize again that time is limited. I will not come to the academy to teach too many students. Situ Haoyun said, Sect leader Jun's martial arts attainments are so high. Even if you come once a year, the students will benefit for life. You are flattering me. However, it felt good. Dean, since Jun is already an honorary teacher of the academy and has taught students, can we recruit disciples? Jun Changshao asked. Situ Haoyun said, yes. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. He thought to himself, although the students of Juying clan are arrogant, as long as they are obedient, they will definitely be the first choice for recruitment. Chapter 514. Jun Changshao chatted with the dean for a while, then got up to leave. He was very busy because he still had to go to the certification hall. After all, he had sent someone to invite him yesterday, and Elder Zhou had helped him out in the morning. Red Lotus. Watching Jun Changshao leave, Situ Haoyun smiled and said, this Jun Changshao is not simple. Yes. Princess Red Lotus said, he became a dual king of sword and martial arts at such a young age, and he is also a martial arts master. It is hard to predict what he will achieve in the future. Isn't this the person your father is waiting for? Situ Haoyun smiled. Princess Red Lotus blushed and said, Dean, you are teasing me again with what happened in the past. 10 years ago. The city lord celebrated his birthday, and all the strong people gathered in the imperial city. At the banquet, Situ Haoyun smiled and said, Princess Red Lotus is very talented. The city lord will have to spend a lot of effort to find a husband for her. Ha ha ha. The city lord laughed and said, in this world, the only one who can marry my daughter is a dragon among men. Yes. He had drunk a lot, and his words were a little light. What is the standard of a dragon among men that the city lord mentioned? Someone asked. A dual king of sword and martial arts, and a martial arts master, is worthy of my precious daughter, the city lord said loudly. Everyone was silent. How could such a dragon among men be found? The city lord's drunken words were widely spread and became the standard for Princess Red Lotus to find a husband. Dual king of sword and martial arts master. These 2 points had stumped many young talents who admired the princess. To this day, the city lord could only sigh in despair. Because of his drunken words, his daughter was already 18 years old, and no one dared to matchmake her. What should he do if she could not get married in the future? Change his words? Lower the standard? As the city lord, how could he go back on his words? The city lord of Heavenly Mandate Royal City was now in a situation where he had to keep up the pretense after drinking. However, who would have thought? Jun Changshao appeared out of nowhere. Not only did he become a dual king of sword and martial arts, but he was also a martial arts master. Fortunately, the city lord was now in seclusion. If he knew about sect leader Jun, he would definitely take the initiative to greet him, shake hands, and say, good, you came in time. Red Lotus. Situ Haoyun returned to the topic at hand and said, Sect Master Jun's stubborn character has a lot of potential. Since he's sincerely inviting you to join him, you should consider it carefully. Yes. Princess Red Lotus responded as a complicated glint suffused her eyes. It's Jun Changshao. This is the first time I've seen someone who was personally invited to the Heavenly Mandate Academy by the Vice Dean. Just now in the market, he was on par with Guardian Jean. It's only natural that he would be invited to the academy. Speaking of which, if this guy is real, who is Jun Changshao from the Southern District? It must be a fake. The soldiers of the Public Security Department are looking for that guy all over the city. On the street, the passers-by were discussing in low voices. Jun Changshao, who was walking with Lu Wancher, frowned and said to himself, forget about that imposter. He had just gained a little bit of fame, and there were already so many people impersonating him. If he were to do something bad, wouldn't it be very troublesome? No. He had to be caught. Princess June Changshao said telepathically, if you catch someone impersonating June, please inform June immediately. Princess Red Lotus, who was in the Heavenly Mandate Academy, received the telepathic message and said, Dean, please inform Sect Master June that I have sealed off the city. The imposter can't escape. Situ Haoyun nodded and conveyed the message to June Changshao. This was one of the benefits of becoming a martial king. They could communicate with each other telepathically. The iron bone telepathy technique could also do this, but the flaw was that the target of the message must also have cultivated the telepathy technique. There was a group of warriors outside the certification headquarters because June Changshao had been personally welcomed by Elder Zhou when he walked in. First, he was invited by the vice dean of the academy, and now he was welcomed by the chief of the certification headquarters. Everyone was amazed at how powerful Sect Master June was. The Ouyang family has been beaten up. They can only suffer in silence. It's not just suffering in silence. Sect Master June said that he was going to visit the Ouyang family. It can't be anything good. I heard that the Ouyang family's direct descendants first scolded the Iron Bone disciples for being bastards, which caused the conflict. In Death Valley, a few evil sects bullied the Iron Bone disciples, but they were all wiped out. It shows that Sect Master June is very protective of his disciples. The Ouyang family is unlucky to have offended him. As the two major organizations showed enough respect to June Changshao, the situation changed. Many people believed that the Ouyang family was in trouble. In the main hall of the certification headquarters, Yi Tianqing smiled and looked at June Changshao, who was sitting at the head of the table, and said, Sect Master June is indeed a talent. You flatter me, June Changshao said humbly. It was hard to imagine that this was the ruthless person who beat up the Ouyang family in a fit of anger for his disciple. Seriously. Sect Master June was not arrogant. In many things, he always believed that he would not offend others unless offended. Sect Master June, Yi Tianqing smiled and said, your sect only took a year to rise from the 9th rate to the 6th rate. Your growth is very fast. When he and the elders received the letter from Deacon Zhao and learned that the Iron Bone had risen from the 7th rate to the 6th rate, they were shocked for a long time. Since the establishment of the certification headquarters, there had never been a sect that could rise so quickly. Master Yi. June Changshao said, you flatter me. Master Yi. Yi Tianqing was a little confused, but he still smiled and said, Sect Master June seems to have caused a lot of trouble recently. Don't mention it. June Changshao said gloomily, they are all third-rate evil sections. Yi Tianqing said, although our certification headquarters is not a force, we still have some prestige in the Falling Star continent. If Sect Master June encounters a troublesome matter, as long as you ask, we will definitely help you. There was such a good thing. Why didn't you say so earlier? It was not that they didn't want to say it, but that you wanted to keep a low profile and didn't let the certification headquarters announce that your sect was in the top 3. The top 3 sects had unlimited potential. The certification headquarters would definitely take good care of you. But this guy chose to keep a low profile, so he could only play along and pretend that he didn't know anything. With the prestige of the certification headquarters, the 2 third-rate evil sects would definitely not come to harass Iron Bone if they knew that it was in the top 3. Headmaster Yi. June Changshao cupped his hands and said, thank you for your kindness. Yi Tianqing said, Sect Master June fought for all of this yourself. If the Iron Bone was unknown, it naturally wouldn't have enjoyed such special treatment. These words were very realistic. However, June Changshao agreed and said, that makes sense. In the cruel otherworld, if you wanted to gain the respect of others, you had to fight for it with your strength. Sect Master June and Headmaster Yi had a pleasant conversation and regretted not meeting earlier. They didn't leave until dusk came. Sect Master Lu Wancher smiled and said, you are also a big shot now. The Dean of the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Headmaster of the Certification Headquarters are all polite to you. Girl. June Changshao said telepathically, don't be blinded by appearances. These old men are very bad. They must have a purpose for being so nice to me. What purpose? Lu Wancher asked. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, who can guess? At present, he could only guess that Situ Haoyun was so friendly to him that he might want to recruit him as a teacher. As for Yi Tianxing, it was hard to guess. One shouldn't have the intention to harm others, but one should always be vigilant. Living in the other world, one had to be cautious. Headmaster. Elder Zhou said, if Sect Master Jun and his sect can develop steadily, they will definitely have a place in southwest Yangzhou in the future. Yi Tianxing said with his hands behind his back, southwest Yangzhou's certification headquarters has been suppressed by other states for so many years. Finally, a sect with a bright future has appeared. We can finally hold our heads high. Elder Zhou was stunned and said in surprise, Headmaster, are you going to let the Iron Bone participate in the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony? Chapter 515. After visiting the certification center, Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher back to the inn. The next day. There were 3 days left before the culinary competition. At first, Lu Wancher had planned to study Chinese recipes in the inn to prepare for the upcoming competition, but she was called out by Jun Changshao. Headmaster. Walking on the street, she saw that the headmaster was not going to the academy or the certification center. She was puzzled and asked, where are we going? The Ouyang family, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher hurriedly advised, Headmaster, forget it. Although she had suffered a lot in the Ouyang family, she did not want to feel proud. She only hoped that she would never have anything to do with this family. The little girl could bear it, but Jun Changshao could not. He was called a bastard when he met the direct descendant of the Ouyang family in the grocery store. This was too much. Headmaster Jun is going to the Ouyang family? Something interesting is going to happen. Let's go, let's follow him. The passers-by judged that Jun Changshao was going to visit the Ouyang family from his route, so they hurriedly followed him. After a while, there were thousands of martial cultivators following behind sect leader Jun, and they were almost forming a long line. Headmaster. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, the vice-headmaster released his spiritual thoughts, and the corner of his mouth twitched. That guy is going to cause trouble for the Ouyang family. A young man. Situ Haoyun said calmly, it's inevitable that he is hot-blooded. The vice-headmaster was speechless. He had just beaten up the direct descendant and the elders yesterday, and today he was going to cause trouble for the family. This was more than hot-blooded. Yi Tianxing, who was at the certification center, also noticed Headmaster Jun's movements. He shook his head helplessly and said, this is really a restless person. Jun Changshao's every move was not only observed by the 2 major organizations, but also by the major families in the city. When he went to the Ouyang family, it immediately attracted a lot of attention. TSK, TSK. A family leader said, the Ouyang family offended the sword and martial kings. This is going to be troublesome. Patriarch, this matter has also given us a warning. When the direct descendants are outside, they must keep a low profile and not cause any trouble, an elder said solemnly. That makes sense. The patriarch agreed. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher and stopped in front of the Ouyang family's residence. As expected of a clan in the capital, their facade was very grand and imposing. Creak. The gate of the mansion opened, and a few old men with strong auras walked out. One of the slightly older elders asked with a dark expression, Sect Master Jun, why have you come to my Ouyang family? These were the elders of the Ouyang family who had real power. Lu Wancher was so frightened that she hid behind the sect leader timidly. Lass. Jun Changshao said, I'm here, don't be afraid. Lu Wancher responded. Her state of mind gradually calmed down, and her courage increased. Jun Changshao said indifferently, your Ouyang clan's direct descendant humiliated my sect's disciples at the sundry goods store yesterday. I'm here today to seek justice. The faces of the Ouyang clan's elders were abnormally ugly. Sect Master Jun, the elder with a higher status, said in a deep voice, I've already heard about yesterday's matter. The direct descendant was indeed in the wrong first, but she was also beaten by you. Isn't it too much to ask for justice? Furthermore, he looked at Lu Wancher behind him and said indifferently, this girl is still a member of my Ouyang clan. Sect Master Jun brought her here to seek justice. It doesn't make sense, right? These words were said perfectly. If it were someone else, they definitely wouldn't be able to accept it. However, Sect Master Jun said, my disciple is a member of your Ouyang clan. That's why I brought her here to seek justice. The corners of the martial cultivator's mouth twitched slightly. So that girl was still a member of the Ouyang clan. A little conflict with someone from the same clan was also other people's family matter. Why did you, an outsider, meddle in it? The eyes of the Ouyang clan's elders were filled with anger. Jun Changshao said, some of your clan's direct descendants have bullied my precious disciple many times. Ask them all to come out and bow and apologize one by one in public. Bow and apologize in public, this request was too much. Jun Changshao. A bad-tempered elder said angrily, do you really think my Ouyang clan is a soft persimmon that can be kneaded as you wish? You can think of it that way. Jun Changshao said. You, the Ouyang clan's elder was furious. Not happy. Jun Changshao squinted his eyes and said with a smile, you can challenge me. The Ouyang clan's elders' faces turned ugly. If this arrogant iron-boned sect master wasn't the sword and martial king, they would definitely have challenged him to defend their clan's honor. So arrogant. If a person isn't arrogant, it's a waste of youth. The martial cultivators in the distance started to discuss. Although the Ouyang clan wasn't considered a top clan in King City, they still had a reputation. Sect Master Jun's arrogant provocation was simply unreasonable. If these martial cultivators knew about Lu Wancher's past and the grievances she had suffered in the Ouyang clan, they wouldn't think that Jun Changshao had gone too far. Being beaten up only hurt in the heart. Being called a bastard by their blood-related relatives all day long, the pain was in their hearts. Sect Master Jun could imagine the scene of Lu Wancher in the Ouyang clan being surrounded and called a bastard by her clan members. He could also imagine the scene of her crying helplessly in a corner. My iron-boned sect's disciple was born to be doted on by me, not for you to humiliate and feel superior. Today, I will definitely destroy the Ouyang clan's place. Even Jesus can't save me. Whoosh 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 whoosh. For a moment, Jun Changshao's martial king and sword martial king aura burst out, gathering two violent forces, rolling up a gust of wind and spreading in all directions. Wang! 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 The sword intent filled the area, and the sword at the martial cultivator's waist trembled violently, as if it could fly out of the sheath at any time. Ouyang clan, listen carefully. Jun Changshao's eyes were cold as he shouted, those who bullied Lu Wancher, get out here now. Under the contrast of the two forces of Sword Martial King, it was extremely domineering. Several Martial King realm elders of the Ouyang clan were affected by the two forces of Sword Martial King. They were so shocked that their faces changed greatly. In the Ouyang clan's inner and outer courts, the direct descendants who had humiliated Lu Wancher were shocked. When they felt the cold aura, they were so scared that they almost collapsed to the ground. The anger from the Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King was not something that they, as martial disciples and martial masters, could contend with. This aura is so terrifying. Although many martial cultivators who were watching the show from afar did not feel the pressure from the power of the Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King, they were also shocked. At that moment, they had no doubt that if Sect Master Jun dared to burst out so unscrupulously in the market yesterday, he could definitely beat the Gold and Silver Guardians to death. The Sword Martial King and Sword Martial King are indeed extraordinary. Situ Haoyun, who was standing on the building of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, exclaimed. The Vice Dean broke down and said, he burst out so unscrupulously. The people of the Peace Order Hall will definitely not sit idly by. Chapter 516. The moment Jun Changshao's aura erupted, the Gold and Silver Guardians in the public security hall sensed it. Their spiritual senses spread over, and when they saw the person who released the aura, they broke down in unison. Why is it this brat again? It's him, it's him, it's him. Yesterday he beat someone up and today he released his aura. Did he have the support of the two major organizations? Was that why he dared to be so unscrupulous? As the administrators of the city's security, the Gold and Silver Guardians definitely could not allow Jun Changshao to do as he pleased. Therefore, they rushed over with their men. My two protectors. At this moment, Princess Red Lotus appeared in front of the public security hall and said, Sect Master Jun did not make a move and did not violate the city's laws. You don't have to care. The Gold and Silver Guardians looked at each other, the corners of their mouths twitching. That fellow had released the aura of the Sword and Martial Kings. If he were to make a move, it would be too late to stop him. However, since the princess had said so, they could only sit and watch. They could not be blamed if something happened. Therefore, the two brothers sat in the public security hall and leisurely sipped their tea. After appeasing the two guardians, Princess Red Lotus looked in the direction of the Ouyang family and thought to herself, Sect Master Jun, I hope you don't mess around in the city. Huff huff at the Ouyang family, Sect Master Jun's aura was still fully released. He was still suppressing the entire Ouyang family, giving them an indescribable pressure. He dared to release his aura in the Monarch City, which was filled with experts. He was truly valiant. The experts of the Ouyang family standing at the door breathed heavily from the pressure. Their expressions turned increasingly ugly. At this moment, they were all secretly praying that the people from the public security hall would hurry over. Otherwise, if this brat really made a move, their family would definitely be in trouble. Brother, the tea is so fragrant. Not bad, not bad. The Gold and Silver Guardians sitting in the public security hall were enjoying their tea. Jun Changshao said coldly, I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it. If you don't come out, don't blame me for barging in. 1. Sect Master Jun. A middle-aged man walked out of the residence and hurriedly cupped his hands. Please don't make things difficult for the Ouyang family on account that I'm Wancher's father. Ouyang Jun, Lu Wancher's father. The two of them looked somewhat similar in terms of appearance. However, when he appeared, Lu Wancher, who was hiding behind Jun Changshao, clenched her fists tightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with hatred. It was this person who caused his mother to miss him day and night, and in the end, she died of depression. It was this person who insisted on bringing him to the Ouyang family, and in the end, he was ridiculed and humiliated by others. Although Jun Changshao did not know what Lu Wancher was feeling right now, he could tell from her eyes. Thus, he said coldly, your daughter was humiliated in the family and was unable to protect her. What qualifications do you have to call yourself father? Ouyang Jun lowered his head in shame. The death of Lu Wancher's mother made him blame himself. So he found his daughter and brought her back to the Ouyang family, just to make up for the mistakes he had made when he was young. However, he had overlooked a cruel problem. Lu Wancher, who had no status, would definitely be treated unfairly when she came to a large family. When Ouyang Jun discovered this problem, his daughter could not bear it and left without saying goodbye. He had searched for her for a long time, but there was no news. 2. Jun Changshao shouted another number. At the same time, the sword martial force that permeated his body became even more intense. Wancher. Ouyang Jun looked at his daughter and said, ask sect leader Jun to stop. If there's anything, we can slowly discuss it as a family. Lu Wancher's small fists clenched tighter and tighter, but there was a painful entanglement in her eyes. She hated him. But in the end, he was still her father. Jun Changshao transmitted his voice, girl, if you compromise, I will bring you away. This trip was ultimately to stand up for his disciple. If she did not pursue the matter, he would definitely not forcefully seek justice for her. Woo woo, Lu Wancher cried. Then, she took a step forward, raised her head, and cried loudly, disciple has been wronged in the Ouyang family. Sect leader, please help me get it back. With a weak appearance, she shouted out a voice that resounded throughout the royal city. And every word was filled with grievances and resentment that had been suppressed for a long time. Jun Changshao placed his hand on the crying Lu Wancher's small head and shouted in a deep voice, 3. Whoosh whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, scorching flames instantly spread out, as if a tall and large fire-type beast was roaring. Not only did the flames carry a violent force, but they also carried boundless anger. The anger came from Jun Changshao, but it represented Lu Wancher. Since the person who bullied my disciple doesn't come out. Sect leader Jun gradually raised his hand and said expressionlessly, then let's smash the Ouyang family's door first. Whoosh whoosh. The flames that rose more than 10 meters quickly gathered together and instantly formed the flame chop. Jun Changshao, who was in a state of anger, condensed the scarlet sky raging flame chop, which was much stronger than the one he used in the academy yesterday. The expert from the academy who was in charge of probing released his spiritual senses to observe again. When he felt the explosive force, he was secretly shocked. If he used it yesterday, he would definitely suffer from internal injuries. Whoosh whoosh. The scorching flames roared crazily outside the Ouyang family's door, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly as if it had turned into a big furnace. Terrifying. The martial artists in the distance were dumbfounded. The Ouyang family's expert, who was targeted, actually broke out in cold sweat in this scorching environment. Jun Changshao. At this moment, a heavy voice came from the Ouyang family, don't be presumptuous. Whoosh. A white-haired old man flew out and landed in front of the mansion with anger in his eyes. He was surrounded by rich spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Greetings, Grand Elder. Several Ouyang family elders hurriedly bowed. It's the only remaining Grand Elder of the Ouyang family. He seems to have been in seclusion for a long time. I wonder if he has broken through to Wu Huang. Judging from his aura, he seems to be stuck at the peak of the Martial King realm. Peak of the Martial King realm? Jun Changshao sneered and said, Old man, as long as those who bullied my direct descendant come out and apologize, I won't be presumptuous. The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, Jun Changshao, on behalf of the Ouyang family, I accept your challenge just now. Asking the direct descendant to come out and apologize in public was equivalent to trampling on the dignity of the Ouyang family, so he was more willing to fight. Are you sure? Jun Changshao asked. The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family pointed to the front and said, You and I will go to the fighting arena to determine the winner. Okay. Jun Changshao withdrew the condensed flame slash and the power of the sword and martial kings was also restrained in his body. He brought Lu Wancher to the fighting arena. As the various forces and pressure dissipated, the direct descendant of the Ouyang family in the mansion suddenly felt relieved. They sat on the ground, drenched in sweat. If the Grand Elder hadn't appeared, once Jun Changshao broke into the Ouyang family, they would have been in trouble. The direct descendant of the Ouyang family who thought so had bullied Lu Wancher before. They had never thought that after an illegitimate daughter left, not only did she not die outside, but she also joined the Iron Bones sect and was led by the sect leader to settle old scores with them. Damn it! A direct descendant of the Ouyang family said angrily, a bastard born outside dares to bring people to the family to cause trouble. The Grand Elder will not let her go easily. She didn't know that Jun Changshao, who was heading to the fighting arena, had unknowingly locked his spiritual thoughts on her. Chapter 517. There were many fighting stations in the 4 districts of Yunwu City. They were similar to the grievance station in Qingyang City. They were mainly used to settle the grievances between warriors. At this moment, tens of thousands of martial practitioners had gathered in front of the fighting station closest to the Ouyang family. More martial practitioners were rushing over from the well-developed streets. The supreme elder of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Li, who was at the peak of the martial king realm, was fighting against the leader of the Iron Bone clan, Jun Changshao, the dual king of martial arts. The upcoming battle would definitely attract a lot of attention. Even the strong ones who had reached the level of martial king had rushed over after hearing the news. It was rare for a peak martial king to fight. It was even rarer for a dual king of martial arts to fight. It was definitely a blessing to be able to witness it today. As more and more warriors gathered, the area around the fighting ring was bustling. At this time, if someone farted, no one would be able to catch the culprit. It was too crowded. What a big commotion. The gold and silver guardians were sitting in the public security hall, drinking tea leisurely. The two brothers were completely relieved now. That kid was fighting with the strong ones of the Ouyang family. Even if they fought fiercely, it would not be against the law. Princess Red Lotus also let out a long sigh of relief. She was really worried that Jun Changshao would fight in the Ouyang family. That would only embarrass her. But then again, he had just broken through to the dual king of martial arts. Could he fight against a peak martial king? In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Jun Changshao broke the void palm used by the higher-ups of the academy. Princess Red Lotus was very impressed. But it was just a test. If they really fought, the strong ones of the academy who were also peak martial kings might not be inferior to a dual king of martial arts. Theoretically, well, let's not talk about it. Let's get straight to the point. On the fighting ring, Jun Changshao and Ouyang Li stood in the center area, about 10 meters away from each other. Although the battle had not started, the contestants from both sides had already released their martial king auras and were secretly competing. A peak martial king against a dual king of martial arts. It is definitely an extremely rare battle. It is a blessing to be able to witness it. This battle will definitely be exciting. Jun Changshao and Ouyang Li had not fought yet, but the warriors below the stage were already anxious. They could not wait for them to fight immediately and give everyone a wonderful battle. Lu Wancher was extremely nervous. The Grand Elder was the most promising master of the Ouyang family to break through Wu Huang. If the sect leader fought with him, perhaps, don't let your imagination run wild. Don't let your imagination run wild. Lu Wancher shook her head and threw away all the bad thoughts. She secretly said in her heart, Sect Master is the strongest, he can definitely defeat all opponents. Sect Master Jun Ouyang said indifferently, how will you and I decide the victor? As you wish, Jun Changshao said. Ouyang raised his hand and a 3 feet long sword appeared out of thin air. He said, let's fight with weapons. That's Master Fan's flowing cloud sword. Someone exclaimed. What? The surrounding martial artists all widened their eyes. Master Fan's name was like thunder in the falling star continent. He had forged countless swords in his life, but the number of swords that could reach the superior grade was less than double digits. The flowing cloud sword was one of them. It was said that after this sword was forged, the originally clear sky was suddenly shrouded by dark clouds that covered the sky and the sun. Thus, it was named Flowing Clouds. Although the Flowing Cloud sword was not a peak sword forged by Master Fan, it was definitely one of the best among the superior grade swords. No wonder Grand Elder Ouyang wants to use weapons to decide the victor. So there is such a divine weapon. Ouyang took out the Flowing Cloud sword, which immediately caused quite a commotion. Jun Changshao sneered. Even a top-grade high-grade sword dared to be called a divine weapon. Then wouldn't his green dragon crescent blade and hard-to-keep blade be called supreme divine weapons passed down from ancient times? Sect Master Jun Ouyang said proudly, show me your weapons. He knew that Jun Changshao was the Sword King. But he still dared to choose to use weapons because his cultivation was high and he had a high-quality weapon. He could definitely win easily. Shwa! Jun Changshao raised his hand and the mid-grade cold ray sword appeared out of thin air. He said, you dare to use a sword to duel in front of the Sword King. I admire your courage. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. You are the Sword King, and the other party is a peak martial king. Why don't you have the courage? If it was a low-grade martial king, daring to challenge the Sword King would undoubtedly be asking for a beating. However, the martial king realm was extremely high and could make up for the gap in swordsmanship. Not to mention, the Ouyang family's Grand Elder also had the superior grade Flowing Cloud sword. If they fought, it would be very difficult for the iron-boned Sect Master to win. Sect Master Jun Yangli said, "Can we begin?" "We can begin." Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, the flowing cloud sword was unsheathed and a bright sword light flashed. Although Yangli was not a swordsman, he had also practiced swordsmanship. With a flick of his wrist, spiritual energy gathered in the body of his sword, forming waves of sword energy that swept toward Jun Changshao. Stormy wave sword technique. Oh my god, this is also a sword art of the superior grade. Although Grand Elder Ouyang is not a sword cultivator, he is very strong and has the support of a high-grade sword. The power must be extraordinary. Everyone exclaimed. Yangli raised his eyebrows proudly. Facing the waves of sword chi, Jun Changshao said indifferently, "Trash." "Trash?" Yangli frowned slightly. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, Jun Changshao stepped forward and used the single-word speed formula. Sword shadows filled the sky and instantly interweaved into an inescapable net. The entire fighting stage was filled with sword chi. The spectators all opened their mouths and their eyes were filled with intense shock. Yangli also opened his eyes wide. Although he released his spiritual thoughts, he could not accurately determine whether this guy had used 200 or 300 sword moves in one breath. In short, there were many. Whoosh! 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 The strong sword chi pressed over without any blind spots and directly dissolved the waves of sword chi. Whoosh! In the sky full of sword shadows, countless sword chi swept over. The speed was so fast that Yangli turned pale with fright. In a hurry, he raised his sword to block. Ding! The sword chi slashed the flowing cloud sword fiercely. Yangli's whole body retreated uncontrollably. Jun Changshao quickly caught up with him. The sword aura that filled the fighting stage whistled and spread outside the stage, colliding with the swords of the various martial artists. Clang! 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 Hundreds of swords were drawn out, dragging streams of light behind them as they flew towards Jun Changshao. Whoosh! Under the influence of the sword force, the swords gathered together and turned into an even bigger sword. Everyone was dumbfounded. 10,000 swords returned to one. Jun Changshao coldly shouted and slashed down with the cold sword in his hand. The huge sword in the sky was like a collapsed mountain. It carried an unparalleled sword force and pressed down on the retreating Yangli. Whoosh! The sword force erupted and the wind howled. Yangli, who was retreating, was shocked. A strong sense of danger surged in his heart. This sword was very strong. What to do, what to do? The only thing Yangli could do now was to dodge. However, the huge sword was too big and there were sword forces pressing down on him from both sides. He could only continue to retreat. However, if he continued to retreat, he would be out of the fighting stage. He did not have much time to think. He immediately followed the inertia and retreated out of the fighting stage. Even so, he was still within the attack range of the huge sword. Furthermore, it was about to crash down. Yangli angrily raised his sword and placed it in front of him. Boundless spiritual energy was poured into the sword. Obviously, he could only take it head-on. Boom! The huge sword, which seemed to be formed by thousands of swords, slashed down. The violent sword force was like a wave that roared out. Caw caw caw! The floor of the fighting stage suddenly shattered. The spectators who were closer to the fight were swept back by the sword force and fell to the ground. Chapter 518. When Jun Changshao used the first form of the 10,000 swords returned to origin, when the giant sword formed by hundreds of swords slashed down, the platform was shaken into a mess by the sword momentum. The spectators closest to the battle were even more miserable. They were shaken and retreated. In the end, they couldn't withstand the air waves and fell down in large groups. At that moment, if one looked down from above, they would see that the moment the sword momentum spread out, the fallen crowd was like layers of ripples. Whoosh whoosh. The sword momentum was still moving, but its power was gradually weakening. The cultivators who fell to the ground stood up with difficulty, their eyes filled with shock. The cold sword intent that came wantonly just now made their hair stand on end. They even suspected that they were going to die. They were still alive. They were still safe and sound. The affected cultivators felt like they had survived a disaster. However, when they raised their heads and looked at the platform, they couldn't help but gasp. A deep sword mark was left in the air, as if the sky had been directly torn apart. The spectators who were far away were not affected by the sword momentum. At this moment, they were staring at the platform. Yang stood there, his hands holding the sky. However, the flowing cloud sword in front of him was broken in half. There was a bright red sword mark on his chest. From this situation, although he raised his sword in time and poured in a majestic spiritual energy to support it, he still couldn't block Jun Changxiao's 10,000 swords return to origin. However, fortunately, Yang decisively chose to retreat after realizing that something was wrong. Although he couldn't completely escape the attack range, he was only scratched on the chest and didn't suffer any fatal injuries. If he didn't retreat, he would still be standing on the platform. This peak martial king's fate would be the same as the flowing cloud sword. He would be cut in half. Clang! Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword and said proudly, "I am the king of swordsmanship. I'm not someone a dabbler like you can compete with." Although he pretended to be cool, he was actually shocked in his heart. He said, "The first form of the 10,000 swords returned to origin is too terrifying." After comprehending it for so long, Sect leader Jun himself didn't expect it to be so powerful that it could directly scare a peak martial king away. However, it also consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Jun Changxiao's sword slashed out and the energy in his spirit nucleus was almost depleted. If it weren't for the two spirit nuclei, his body would have swayed and his face would have been weak. More importantly, when Jun Changxiao saw Yang retreat and leave the platform, he held back a lot of energy. If he slashed out in full state, the energy of the spirit nucleus would definitely be sucked dry. The 10,000 swords returned to one was indeed powerful, but it could not be casually used. Otherwise, it would be detrimental to the later battles, unless one could defeat the enemy in one move. Ding! Side mission completed. Reward, 2,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 770210000. Yang appeared and accepted the challenge. The system then issued a side mission to defeat the other party. Jun Changxiao thought to himself unhappily, defeating a peak martial king only gives me 2,000 points. That is too little. The system was speechless. It was getting harder and harder to satisfy the host. Outside the platform, the spectating martial cultivators all widened their eyes in disbelief. It's over. Regardless of whether Yang still had the ability to fight, he had already lost the battle. Poor him. Not only did he lose, but his flowing cloud sword was also broken. Found out. Master Fan, who they had only heard of, had never seen, and the weapon he forged was just a stepping stone for Sect leader Jun to show off. Of course. The top experts didn't care that the battle was over. What they cared about was the terrifying combat power Jun Changxiao had displayed in that short exchange. Especially the huge sword, which left a sword mark in the air that couldn't be healed for a long time. It was extremely frightening. Was this the terror of the sword and martial kings? Pooh! Yang, who was standing outside the platform, spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked like he had aged 100 years in an instant. His injuries weren't serious. The reason he spat out blood was because his precious flowing cloud sword was damaged. Jun Changxiao stood proudly on the platform. He glanced at the Yangs and said indifferently, "You can continue to challenge me." Very arrogant. Very arrogant. But the elders of the Yangs all lowered their heads. Obviously, they didn't dare to accept the challenge. Even the Grand Elder, who was half a step away from Wu Huang, was defeated so easily. If they went up, they would definitely be looking for trouble. Jun Changshao said in a deep voice, since no one dares to accept the challenge, then quickly call out all the direct descendants of the Ouyang's who bullied my disciple and apologize one by one. Defeating Ouyangli wasn't over yet. Today, he had to seek justice for Lu Wancher. He had to let the Ouyang's understand that the debt they owed must be paid even if it was a long time ago. Actually, Sect leader Jun didn't go overboard. He just wanted the direct descendants who had humiliated Lu Wancher to apologize one by one. However, apologizing in public was equivalent to trampling on the dignity of the Ouyang's. They would definitely be very resistant. Sigh. Ouyangli sighed and turned to leave. His back view looked extremely old. They had lost this battle. It also meant that the Ouyang's had lost. Outside the gate of the Ouyang's, many martial artists gathered again and were discussing the battle between the kings. To be honest, Jun Changshao used the 10,000 swords unification to defeat Ouyangli. It happened too quickly. Ordinary martial artists couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Other than the huge swords that gathered and the space that was cut open, it seemed that this battle between the kings wasn't as exciting as they had imagined. This was what ordinary martial artists thought. Those high-level martial artists were still in deep shock. A peak martial king who could enter Wu Huang's realm at any time was easily defeated. This guy's strength was probably invincible among the king stage, right? This was hard to say. Because the strength that Sect leader Jun showed just now came from the 10,000 swords unification. If he didn't use this move, he might not be able to defeat Ouyangli so easily. Creak. At this moment, the gate of the Ouyang's was pushed open. The direct descendants of the Ouyang's walked out dejectedly. After the Grand Elder was defeated by Jun Changshao, the Ouyang's chose to apologize after a difficult choice. There was no other way. If they didn't apologize, Jun Changshao would definitely not give up. If they destroyed the gate of the Ouyang's and made a scene inside, the dignity of the family would only be trampled even more. Moreover, the people from the public security hall didn't appear. Obviously, they were pretending that they didn't see anything. This kind of existence that even the gold and silver guardians are afraid of, if my Ouyang's insist on holding on, it will definitely be more unlucky. I'm sorry, I was wrong. A direct descendant of the Ouyang's who had humiliated Lu Wancher bowed. Louder. Jun Changshao said indifferently. The direct descendant closed his eyes and said loudly, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Next. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Next. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Chapter 519. Hundreds of direct descendants of the Ouyang family lined up to apologize in front of everyone. This scene would definitely be widely spread. Then, how to distinguish who had bullied Lu Wancher? It was very simple. Jun Changshao made the youngest generation of direct descendants of the Ouyang family come out to apologize, regardless of whether they had bullied her or not. This was called killing the wrong person rather than letting them go. Lu Wancher stood proudly, looking at the direct descendants of the Ouyang family who didn't even dare to raise their heads. At first, she just wanted to escape and didn't want to have anything to do with the Ouyang family. Now that the people who had humiliated her bowed and apologized in front of her, she realized how satisfying it was. Master. Lu Wancher transmitted her voice, thank you. If he didn't bring her to the Ouyang family to seek justice, the grievances in her heart would follow her forever. Girl. Jun Changshao said, you're treating me as an outsider. Lu Wancher smiled brightly and said, Master is the closest person to Dudu, the person who is willing to cook for a lifetime. We agreed on a lifetime. You can't miss a month, a day, or even 2 hours, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher nodded heavily. However, when a female direct descendant of the Ouyang family walked over, her smile froze. Her 2 big eyes contained coldness. Ouyangli. the eldest cousin of the Ouyang family's younger generation. During the time she lived in the family, this woman was the one who bullied Lu Wancher the most. She was the one who took the lead to shout the word bastard. The current master of the Ouyang family was Ouyang Li's father. Her mother was also from another powerful family in the capital. In the family, Ouyang Li was definitely the beloved daughter of the Ouyang family. Her status was not inferior to many of her cousins who had extraordinary talents. Lu Wancher was like Cinderella in front of her. It was because of the huge difference in status that Ouyang Li never looked at Lu Wancher. She even thought that this kind of illegitimate daughter shouldn't be in the family, so as not to become a laughingstock. Ouyang Li, who boasted of her noble bloodline, was like a proud swan every day, using the most arrogant words to humiliate Lu Wancher. What a coincidence! The person Jun Changshao used his spiritual sense to lock onto was also her. I used the aura of the sword and martial king to suppress her, and she still dared to say the word bastard afterwards. This woman really didn't repent. Beep beep. Jun Changshao said, fight. Pa! Lu Wancher swung her hand and slapped her face. You! Ouyang Li covered her red left cheek, her eyes filled with anger. Lu Wancher said coolly, you wouldn't have thought that I, Lu Wancher, would return in such a manner one day, right? The anger in Ouyang Li's eyes intensified. Continue, Jun Changshao said. Pa! 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 Lu Wancher continued to wave her palms. Ouyang Li's face, which could be considered pretty and moving, immediately became swollen. Ouyang family head witnessed the whole process. Although he clenched his fists tightly and was burning with anger, he did not dare to say a word. It was because when Lu Wancher made her move, Jun Changshao's terrifying sword force had already spread out. As long as someone from the Ouyang clan dared to make a move, he would definitely attack without restraint. There was qi. Hold it in. Not convinced? Bear with it. Outside the Ouyang family's gate, Lu Wancher slapping the daughter of the Ouyang family's patriarch would definitely become a hot topic. After all the young generation's direct descendants bowed and apologized, Jun Changshao said, let's go. Lu Wancher started to follow. However, after taking 2 steps, she stopped and said, in the culinary competition 3 days later, I will use my culinary skills to defeat you direct descendants of the Ouyang clan. The Ouyang clan had always been focused on culinary skills, and martial arts was only secondary. Using culinary skills to defeat them was definitely a double trampling on their dignity. After Jun Changshao left with Lu Wancher, all the direct descendants of the Ouyang clan returned to the clan. The red gate was tightly shut, and the upper echelons were all trembling with anger. Ouyang Jun. An elder said angrily, this is your good daughter who made my Ouyang clan lose face in the royal city. Ouyang Juan's face was extremely ugly. However, to be honest, when the direct descendants of the clan apologized to his daughter one by one, he felt a sense of relief from the depths of his heart. Patriarch, I am ashamed to face the ancestors of the Ouyang clan, and I have no face to stay in the clan. I will leave today and never return. Ouyang Jun said sorrowfully. Humph. All the elders snorted coldly. Ouyang Jun didn't say anything else. He didn't even pack his luggage and left the Ouyang clan with a guilty heart. In the inn's cafeteria, Lu Wancher was holding a bowl and eating rice in big mouthfuls. After so many years of grievances were vented, it made her very happy, and her appetite grew. Eat slowly, don't choke, Jun Changshao said with a smile. He might be violent to the Gathering Heroes Hall's students, but to his own disciples, he was afraid that they would melt in his hands. Lu Wancher drank a mouthful of soup and opened her mouth that was covered in rice. She smiled and said, Patriarch, this is the first time I feel that the food made by an outsider is so delicious. Jun Changshao said, when your mood is good, everything you eat is delicacies. I want another bowl of rice. Waiter, 2 more bowls. All right, guest, please wait a moment. Lu Wancher, who was in a good mood, ate 3 bowls of rice before leaning against the chair. Lass. Jun Changshao said, "Let me ask you a question." "What question?" "Do you hate your father?" "Yes." Lu Wancher answered without thinking. Jun Changshao said, "I brought you to the Ouyang family to cause trouble. Your father's future days will definitely not be good." "That's his problem, it has nothing to do with me," Lu Wancher said. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "No matter what, he is still your father. Even if he did something wrong, you have to give him a chance to forgive, right?" Lu Wancher was silent. "Moreover," Jun Changshao said, "he still cares about you, otherwise he wouldn't have brought you back to the Ouyang family. Although you were bullied, his original intention was for you to live a good life, and not wander around alone outside." "Patriarch," Lu Wancher said with a firm gaze, "I no longer have any involvement with the Ouyang family, including him." These words. Jun Changshao pointed outside and said, "You can talk to him yourself." Lu Wancher was startled and turned around. Ouyang Jun stood at the door of the inn with a complicated look in his eyes. He wanted to call out to his daughter, but he swallowed back the words. "This is not the place to talk." "You can go upstairs," Jun Changshao said. "Patriarch, he is your father, not an enemy. Even if he was in the wrong first, as a daughter, you should give him a chance to redeem himself." Lu Wancher was silent. She got up and walked to the second floor with a pout. It seemed that she was going to give Ouyang Jun a chance to redeem himself. "Hurry up and go," Jun Changshao said. "Are you standing outside and basking in the sun?" "Thank you, Patriarch Jun." Ouyang Jun hurriedly cupped his hands and followed his daughter. Jun Changshao drank a glass of wine and left the inn, heading to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. To be honest, he didn't have a good impression of Ouyang Jun. But after all, he was Lu Wancher's biological father. No matter what, he had to give him a chance to turn over a new leaf. Patriarch Jun wouldn't get involved in the matter between this father and daughter. And he was heading to the Heavenly Mandate Academy to continue to train the giant babies in the Juying Hall. Otherwise, how could he get along well with the disciples if he joined the Iron Bones sect with pride? Chapter 520. The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family was forced back dozens of steps by the sword. Teacher Jun came quickly. It's too late to say, but in the blink of an eye, all the swords around him were drawn over and he performed a powerful sword move. What do you think the result was? In the Juying Hall, Huoling had one foot on the chair as he told the students about what happened at the platform. What's the result? The students asked eagerly, their eyes full of anticipation. At that moment, Huoling turned into an author, trying his best to keep the readers in suspense. Only when everyone's buttocks were on fire did he say leisurely, "The Grand Elder of the Ouyang family was forced out of the arena." The flowing cloud sword was broken, and there was a deep and eye-catching sword scar on his chest. "Oh my God!" everyone exclaimed in unison. Such a battle between kings was already so fierce from Huoling's description. If they could witness it with their own eyes, it would be even more thrilling. Someone said in admiration, "Teacher Jun is too strong." "He's more than strong." Huoling said, "He's so strong that it's scary." Even the senior ranked first on the hero ranking is not worth mentioning in front of Teacher Jun. Jun Changshao defeated a peak martial king in one move, which made the students of the Juying Hall admire him very much. TSK Chu Xiaonan, who had his legs on the table, curled his lips and said, "I can only say that the Ouyang family's strength is average. If he dares to provoke my Chu family, I'll definitely make him walk in and crawl out." Hee hee. Someone laughed and said, "Young Master Chu's family has Wu Huang. Teacher Jun might not have the guts to go." "That's right." Chu Xiaonan said proudly, "Even if he's the sword and martial king, in front of Wu Huang, he's just..." At this point, his voice stopped abruptly. Because at the entrance of the school, Jun Changshao was standing there with a smile. "Teacher Jun!" Huoling exclaimed. Then, she quickly put her legs down from the chair and sat upright. The other students quickly returned to their seats, looking like obedient children. Chu Xiaonan wanted to continue putting his legs on the table, but when he thought of this guy's violent means, he reluctantly retracted his legs. Bang! Jun Chang appeared in front of him and knocked him to the ground with an iron fist of love. Then, he began to torture him. Everyone shuddered when they saw this. After a bout of abuse, Chu Xiaonan lay on the ground like a puddle of mud. He howled in his heart, "You didn't even give me a chance to stop." Paw! Jun Changshao put his palms on the podium and said in a deep voice, "I'll reiterate it once more. In the academy, if anyone does anything indecent, they will be severely punished." "Yes, Teacher Jun." The students shouted in unison, their voices extremely loud and clear. If you want to become an expert, you can't just rely on martial arts. You also need to have a strong enough body. Today's lesson is... Jun Changxiao's lips curled up into a devilish smile as he said, "Run 1,000 laps around the field." Ah! Who has an opinion? No objections, Teacher Jun. Hurry up and go. Yes. The school's field was usually used by the instructors to instruct the students outdoors. Some students who didn't have classes also liked to come here to cultivate. At this moment, the students in the field were all dumbfounded because the geniuses of Gathering Heroes Hall were circling around them. Was this still those arrogant young masters who were usually so arrogant? You're not allowed to use spirit power. Use your purest body to run. Jun Changshao stood with his hands behind his back and shouted like an officer. Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Because they were afraid of Teacher Jun's violent destruction, they really didn't dare to use spirit power and ran with their 2 legs. 1,000 laps. This was a terrifying number. They only ran more than 30 laps and their faces were flushed red and dripping with sweat. The school's field was very big. 1 lap was at least 5 or 6 li. After running more than 30 laps, it was almost 200 li. Without using spirit power to drive, they still had to run at the fastest time. Relying on their own strength, it was definitely an extremely painful torture. As for 1,000 laps, not to mention the students who were martial masters, even if a martial king came, it would be impossible to run with pure physical strength in such a short time. No. I can't. After running 100 laps, a student directly collapsed on the ground. The others also began to fall behind. They didn't care about how noble their identities were and sat on the ground one by one. Jun Changshao didn't punish them and continued to observe the others running. He thought to himself, among these pampered young masters, there is no lack of people with strong physical bodies. If they join the Iron Bone School and train in the forging room and training tower, they will definitely have a good improvement. Some people would ask, isn't it too low for a martial cultivator from another world to let them run? Actually, Sect leader Jun didn't do this to let them temper their bodies. The main purpose was to destroy the arrogance of these young masters. TSK, a group of young masters from big families running around the field. I really didn't expect this. Sect leader Jun is still the best. If it were other teachers, they would have already caused a ruckus. That's why evil people need to be dealt with by evil people. The teachers in the distance gathered together and discussed in low voices. Dean. The vice dean broke down and said, the students of Gathering Heroes Hall are all very pampered. Letting them run around in front of everyone is undoubtedly trampling on their self-esteem. Sidu Haoyan said, aren't they running quite happily? The vice dean muttered in his heart, Jun Changshao is violent at the slightest disagreement. They must be running happily. 1000 laps was just a casual remark from sect leader Jun. In fact, without using spiritual power, the students of Gathering Heroes Hall couldn't do it in a short period of time. So after running for a while, they all collapsed on the ground in exhaustion. At this moment, they didn't care that their classmates were looking at them. They just wanted to lie on the grass for a while and enjoy the comfortable feeling of relaxing their muscles. That's all for today. Jun Changshao said, we'll continue tomorrow. Ah. Huo Ling and the others lay on the ground, looking like they had nothing to live for. After the class, Jun Changshao returned to the inn. Yang-jun stood outside the guest room and waited. When he saw him return, he hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Sect leader Jun, thank you for taking care of Wancher this year." Jun Changshao said, "She is my disciple. It's only right to take care of her." Sect leader Yang-jun said, "I'll leave Wancher to you." With that, he turned to leave. Creak. At this moment, Lu Wancher pushed open the door and said indifferently, "Sect leader, the sect still lacks a chef." "That's true." Jun Changshao said, "Since you've already left the Ouyang family, are you interested in coming to my iron bone?" His spiritual sense had already captured what Yang-jun had said in the Ouyang family, and he knew that the other party was chasing after him. That was why he took the initiative to ask Lu Wancher and provide an opportunity for the father and daughter to communicate. "I'm interested," Yang-jun said. He didn't care about being a chef in Iron Bone. He just wanted to be with his daughter and make up for what he owed her in the past. "After the culinary competition is over, follow me back to Iron Bone," Jun Changshao said. Okay. Yang-jun said. Lu Wancher snorted coldly, then closed the door and continued to study Chinese recipes. Jun Changshao shook his head and thought to himself, this broken father-daughter relationship still needs some time to repair. Chapter 521. The next day, Jun Changshao went to the Heavenly Mandate Academy again and gave the students of the Zhuyin clan a good beating. After 3 days, these giant babies were taught a lesson. Even the troublemaker Chu Xiaonan had to sit up straight when he came to the academy. He didn't dare to put his legs on the table. Were they that cowardly? Of course not. Some of the direct descendants went back to their families and told them about the abuse, hoping that their families would stand up for them. The answer they got was that it was fine as long as they were fine. It was fine as long as they were fine. Some of the higher-ups even reprimanded their direct descendants, telling them to put more effort into martial arts and not get into trouble. It seemed that it wasn't the students who were cowardly, but their families. The news that sect leader Jun went to deal with the Ouyang clan arrogantly was still spreading. The major families were naturally afraid. Even the Chu clan, the leader of the 8 major families, didn't say anything when they learned that Chu Xiaonan had been abused several times. They didn't care. The Chu clan wasn't afraid of Jun Changshao. They were afraid of the 2 major organizations behind him. Moreover, they received news that the guy went to the Ouyang clan's place. Princess Red Lotus went to the public security hall, but the gold and silver guardians didn't come out. Instead, they were drinking tea leisurely. There was definitely something fishy going on. Thinking of the city lord's drunken words at his birthday, the Chu clan suddenly realized that this Jun Changshao might become the son-in-law of Yunwa City. It was scary to think about it. If their families didn't stand up for them, the students of the Zhuyin clan could only admit defeat. But then again, after the first class, they benefited a lot from sect leader Jun's guidance. Their martial arts improved more or less. Unsurprisingly, as long as they followed the correct guidance to comprehend the mental cultivation method, it would be easy to reach a higher level. After the students who had opinions about sect leader Jun gradually benefited, their attitudes changed and they worshipped him. If he kept teaching them, breaking through to Wuzong was just around the corner. Unfortunately, Jun Changshao didn't come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy the next day, which made them quite depressed. Tomorrow is the culinary competition. Teacher Jun's disciples will also participate. We must go and watch, Hua Ling said in the academy. Within the Zhuyin hall, he was the one who worshipped Jun Changshao the most. A student said in surprise, not only is that girl's martial arts high, but she also knows how to cook. After all, she is Ouyang Jun's daughter. It is normal for her to inherit the cooking talent of the Ouyang family. Since he's teacher Jun's disciple, we definitely have to go and support him. Because the culinary competition had nothing to do with martial arts, its audience had never been high. Lu Wancher was Jun Changshao's disciple, which piqued the interest of the Gathering Heroes Hall's students. They decided to go to the competition venue tomorrow to watch. The martial cultivators in King City were also discussing this matter. They also planned to go and watch the cooking competition. The main reason was that before Lu Wancher left the Ouyang family, she had said that she would use her culinary skills to defeat the Ouyang family's direct descendant. The Ouyang clan's martial arts were mediocre, but their culinary skills were renowned far and wide. A little girl dared to speak such arrogant words, which made them especially curious. In the guest room, Lu Wancher served the kung pao chicken that she had just made and said with a smile, "Sect master, have a taste." She had been studying Chinese recipes for the past 2 days and had learned many new dishes. Kung pao chicken was a traditional Chinese dish. It was included in both Shandong cuisine and Sichuan cuisine. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao was full of praise after eating a mouthful of it. Hee hee. Lu Wancher smiled brightly. However, when she saw Ouyang Jun walk in, she snorted, turned around, and walked out. "Mr. Ouyang," Jun Changshao said, "this is the dish that Du just made. Have a taste." Ouyang Jun walked forward, picked up a peanut with his chopsticks, and gently put it in his mouth to chew. Judging from these orderly steps, it was obvious that he was an expert in the field of food. After tasting it carefully, Ouyang Jun's expression changed again and again. In the end, he exclaimed in disbelief, Is this made by Wancher?" In the Ouyang family, in terms of martial arts, he might not be the best, but in terms of culinary skills, he was definitely top-notch. Just one bite of the dish made by his daughter made it difficult for him to calm down. Naturally, Jun Changshao said. Ouyang Jun was overjoyed. "I didn't expect my daughter to have such high culinary skills." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Now you know that your daughter has a talent in cooking. You are really incompetent as a father." Ouyang Jun lowered his head in shame. "There's still a long way to go." Jun Changshao said, "Make up for it slowly." Ouyang Jun cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Sect leader Jun, for giving me a chance. I will work hard to be a good father." He knew that if it weren't for Jun Changshao, he would never be able to get close to his daughter, let alone be taken in to make up for his father's debt. "How about this dish?" Jun Changshao went back to the topic. Ouyang Jun had too many words to describe it, but thousands of words were just water, so he condensed it into one sentence: "It's delicious." To be able to get such praise from the top chef of Southwest Yangzhou was definitely not because of his daughter. Jun Changshao said, "Participating in the cooking competition, it's a sure thing." Sect leader Ouyang Jun said weakly, "What's the name of this dish?" "Kung pao chicken." "Kung pao chicken?" Ouyang Jun was familiar with all kinds of cuisines, but he had never heard of this dish. The next day, the eastern square of Yinwu City, the location of the cooking competition. It was just dawn, and many martial cultivators had already gathered. They were talking in low voices, and every 3 sentences were about the previous incident where Jun Changshao smashed the Ouyang family's place. Many of the martial cultivators didn't witness the Battle of Kings on the platform with their own eyes, and their faces were full of regret. It didn't matter. The Iron Bone disciples were also going to participate in the cooking competition. Jun Changshao, the king of sword and martial arts, would definitely come. At that time, they would also be able to see his glory. So many martial cultivators gathered in the early morning. Most of them didn't come to watch the cooking competition, but for sect leader Jun gradually. The major families and individual cultivators of Yinwu City came to the square. They consciously found a suitable viewing area and waited quietly. "Oh no!" someone exclaimed, "The students of the Juying Hall of the Heavenly Mandate Academy are also here." As soon as this remark came out, the whole square suddenly became chaotic. Many of the martial cultivators who lived in the city all year round avoided them, and their eyes were filled with deep fear. The students of the Juying Hall not only caused headaches in the academy, but they were also tyrannical outside. As long as they went to a place, there would definitely be a show to watch. However, when Chu Xiaonan and Huo Ling came to the square, all the martial cultivators were dumbfounded because this group of arrogant young masters seemed to be different from before. How was it different? There was no arrogance on their faces, and their arrogance had weakened a lot. It was as if they were different people. What made the martial cultivators even more surprised was that after this group of young masters arrived, they stood neatly, as if they were soldiers who had undergone strict training. What was going on? Could it be that they had all learned well? Seeing the students of the Juying Hall behave so well, everyone was dumbfounded. Sect leader Jun is here. It was Unknown who shouted loudly. In an instant, everyone turned to look and saw Jun Changshao walking over with Lu Wancher at the end of the street. Teacher Jun. The students of the Juying Hall shouted loudly, "Good morning." Chapter 522. The sudden shout of the Juying Hall students startled all the martial cultivators, and their expressions immediately became interesting. They could see that this group of young masters was shouting for Jun Changshao, so this teacher Jun must be referring to him. Did they hear or see wrong? A group of arrogant and domineering direct descendants of big families actually greeted him so respectfully. Wait! Teacher Jun. Wasn't he the headmaster of Ironbone? How did he become a teacher? In everyone's understanding, only the instructors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy could enjoy the title of teacher. Situ Haoyun did not announce that Master Jun was hired as an honorary instructor of the academy, so only the big families in the city received the news. Why are you here? Jun Changshao walked over with Lu Wancher and asked. Huo Ling grinned and said, Teacher Jun's disciple is participating in the culinary competition. As your students, we naturally have to cheer for you. Your students? Many warriors heard this and immediately realized that Jun Changshao was an instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Oh my God! This was breaking news. The instructors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy depended on seniority and age. If Jun Changshao was really an instructor, he would definitely be the youngest. Needless to say, Master Jun, who enjoyed the benefits of an official instructor, was definitely the youngest instructor in the history of the academy. Jun Changshao said with relief, "You are teachable, teachable." As he said this, he led Lu Wancher to the square. At this moment, hundreds of stoves were arranged in the central area of the square. However, when Jun Changshao arrived, no one paid attention to the competition props. All eyes were locked on him, giving people the feeling that he was a big star. About half an hour later, 200,000 to 300,000 people gathered in the square. In the past, this kind of competition that had nothing to do with martial arts would attract 20,000 to 30,000 people. An elder of the Shen family, the organizer, walked to the temporary stage and said, "Thank you for coming to watch this year's culinary competition. Next, let us warmly welcome the contestants." Silence. There was no applause. The elder of the Shen family was super embarrassed. At several entrances, contestants walked in one after another, most of them young. Headmaster. Lu Wancher took a deep breath and said, "Disciple will go as well." "Go ahead," Jun Changshao said. However, when Lu Wancher walked out, she encouraged him, "As an Iron Bone disciple, you must never give up." Yes. Lu Wancher nodded and followed the contestants to the square platform. At that moment, she seemed to feel that her senior brothers and sisters were watching her from the sky. Thus, she raised her head and said with a firm gaze, "Dudu will not let you down. Junior sister. We are still alive." More than 300 contestants stood on the stage in the square, their eyes burning with passion. Some of these people came from King City, while others came from other cities in southwest Yangzhou. They were definitely the most outstanding culinary geniuses. Participating in the cooking competition and winning the championship was their goal. Of course, there were also direct descendants of the Ouyang family. They intentionally or unintentionally looked at Lu Wancher with a hint of anger in their eyes. Apologizing in front of so many people at their doorstep, they must be feeling very indignant. Especially when they thought about how this woman shamelessly said that she would use her culinary skills to defeat them before leaving. This was even more unbearable. The Ouyang family's culinary skills had been passed down for a long time, and they were extremely famous in southwest Yangzhou. They had won many championships in the previous cooking competitions. They could be lacking in martial arts, but they were absolutely confident in culinary skills. The culinary geniuses participating in this competition all had the determination to break the legend of the Ouyang family. Simply put, the Ouyang family's culinary skills were similar to Huaxia's table tennis team, completely beating Southwest Yangzhou. "Humph," one of the Ouyang family's direct descendants sneered, "when the competition starts, I will let you understand that using culinary skills to defeat my Ouyang family is a fantasy. Let's not talk nonsense." The Shen family's elders said, "Let's warmly welcome the judges of this cooking competition." Clap, clap, clap. Scattered applause sounded, and it didn't seem awkward. It wasn't to give face to the cooking competition, but to the judges. Because those who entered were all famous people in King City, and there was no lack of family heads among them. The cooking competition was about color, aroma, and taste. So, the quality of the food depended on how the judges judged it. After the 10 judges were in place, the Shen family's elder said loudly, 300 contestants, please enter the stove." Whoosh! Whoosh! Everyone dispersed and chose the stove that they liked. Lu Wancher chose the one closest to Jun Changshao, who was watching the competition. When she arrived, she grinned at the sect leader, but when she saw her father was also there, she retracted her smile. The contestants were in place. The Shen family carried baskets filled with all kinds of ingredients and placed them beside the stove. The ingredients, materials, and cooking props for the cooking competition were all provided by the Shen family. The contestants couldn't prepare their own to avoid cheating. The Shen family's elder said, "Contestants, please make your signature dish within an hour. The top 100 with the highest score will advance to the second round." Competition, he dragged his voice and said, "Let's start." If this was a martial arts competition, the spectators would be very excited. But at this moment, there was no fluctuation in their hearts. They even wanted to laugh. The first round of the cooking competition began, and the contestants began to prepare. The first step was naturally to start a fire. Whoosh! Whoosh! Many people released their own flames. "Damn!" Jun Changshao said in surprise, "They are all fire-type martial cultivators." So many fire-type martial cultivators came to participate in the cooking competition. Their goal was too small. The system said, they are not pure fire-type martial cultivators. They only temporarily possess the fire-type attribute. Temporarily? Jun Changshao said in surprise, "What do you mean?" The system said, "After my analysis, I learned that there is a kind of fire elemental pill in the falling star continent. After consuming it, one can possess the fire-type attribute for a certain period of time." So magical? Jun Changshao said in surprise. "You bought the exquisite fire from the system store and directly became a fire-type martial cultivator." The system said, "Although magical, the condensed fire-type attribute cannot be compared with a real fire-type martial cultivator. It can only be used to start a fire and cook." I see. No wonder the spectators were not surprised when so many contestants released their flames. They definitely knew that they were not real leather sofas, but artificial leather. Out of the 300 contestants, 299 of them released their flames. The only one who did not use it was Lu Wancher. She even used the most primitive method to start a fire, and then added wood. She looked very serious. This girl did not use the fire elemental pill. Others are about to start their fire, but she is still slowly igniting it. If she exceeds the time limit, it will be equivalent to losing the competition. Because of her identity as an Iron Bone disciple, Lu Wancher's every move attracted the attention of the martial cultivators. Whoosh! Many contestants started their fires one after another. Some did not even use firewood, and simply used the condensed flames to heat the bottom of the pot. Lu Wancher shook her head and said, "Using a flame that does not belong to you to cook, even if you can fill your stomach, you will not have a soul." Chapter 523. The heart-wrenching culinary competition, under everyone's fervent anticipation, finally, Looking at those martial cultivators standing outside, yawning with a bored face, the author really couldn't make up any more stories. Sigh. In a world where martial arts were respected, it was too difficult to arouse everyone's passion in a culinary competition. However, the contestants at the stove were all focused on waving their kitchen knives, skillfully cutting the ingredients. Others could look down on them, but they couldn't look down on themselves. Since they had embarked on the path of culinary arts, they had to concentrate wholeheartedly. There was no distinction between professions. If one was in a profession, one should love it. Don't ask who was in a profession. Whoosh whoosh, the flames released by the contestants burned crazily under the stove. The sound represented their passion for culinary arts. Sizzle. After heating up the oil in the wok, someone threw the cut ingredients in and started to stir-fry skillfully. Although the contestants were young, they were all experienced chefs, and their skills were definitely not weak. As the ingredients and seasonings were added into the wok, after stir-frying, there was a burst of fragrance. The martial cultivators who were dozing off sniffed lightly and instantly became alert. Not everyone could cultivate martial arts, but everyone had to eat food. Hence, the power of food was very strong. It smells so good. Smelling the fragrance in the air, everyone's appetite was aroused. The ones who paid the most attention were naturally the 10 Ouyang family descendants. Because the dishes they stir-fried were more fragrant than the other contestants. Judging from the fragrance alone, everyone from the Ouyang family would definitely advance in the first round of the competition. This kind of thing was the most common in previous culinary competitions. However, when all the contestants were cooking, only Lu Wancher had just started the fire and placed the required ingredients neatly on the chopping board. Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. Some of the other contestants were almost done. You haven't even finished cutting the ingredients. Your speed is too slow. What made them collapse even more was, after placing the ingredients, Lu Wancher closed her eyes and clasped her hands together as if she was praying. Miss. If we were hungry customers, I'm afraid we would starve to death by the time you serve the dishes. Swish. Lu Wancher waved her small hand and skillfully took the kitchen knife, cutting the ingredients smoothly. Tisk, the direct descendant of the Ouyang clan, glanced at it and said in disdain, "This knife skill is not even as good as the servants of my Ouyang clan." Since it was her first time participating in the cooking competition, Lu Wancher was very cautious. Her knife skills were also focused on stability. She didn't pay attention to anything fancy. If he really showed it to them, they would definitely be scared to death. Why? Because Lu Wancher was Iron Bone's chief golden chef, thousands of disciples were all raised by her. If he had to cook slowly, not to mention his senior brothers and sisters, even Sect Master Jun would have to starve. On the other hand, although the direct descendants of the Ouyang family have good culinary skills, the amount of food they can cook in a year may not be comparable to the amount of food our little lowly can cook in a day. Diligence makes up for stupidity, and practice makes perfect. Not only could this be used in martial arts, but it could also be used in culinary arts. Putting aside the Ouyang family's ancestral cooking skills, just in terms of cooking, Lu Wancher could crush the Ouyang family's direct descendants. So what right do they have to despise our kind and lovely Iron Bone gold medal chef? The system said, "Author, please control your emotions. It's commentary time now, don't take sides with the contestants based on your personal feelings." Dong! 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 Lu Wancher skillfully waved the kitchen knife, slicing the ingredients evenly. At the same time, the oil in the wok was also heated up. With a wave of the knife, she rolled up the ingredients and threw them in. The whole process could be said to be done in one go. However, it was still too slow. It couldn't be compared to the other contestants' fancy moves. Schwa! Schwa! Lu Wancher held the spoon and began to stir the ingredients. During this time, she added seasonings, striving for perfection in every step. "This little girl is very serious," Jun Chongshao muttered. She wasn't the only one who was serious. The other contestants were also giving it their all. After all, They had worked hard for so many years just to prove themselves today. 300 people cooked together, and the fragrance of the dishes that gathered in the air was quite complex, leaving a rich aftertaste. Some people even closed their eyes, and their souls seemed to have merged into an ocean full of delicacies, swimming to their heart's content. Comfortable. Wonderful. Just as they were swimming, waves suddenly rolled up in the ocean, and 10 huge whales floated to the surface of the water, spurting out spring water, interweaving into a magnificent scene. At that moment, everyone locked their eyes on the whales, marveling at their physiques and the colorful spring water they spurted out. At that moment, the sailors' laughter could be heard in the deepest part of their hearts. He said, "What is this pain in the wind and rain? Wipe away your tears and don't be afraid. At least we still have dreams." The martial artists who were in a trance were stunned. They looked toward the source of the voice and saw a lone boat slowly sailing over, carrying a man and a woman who were singing loudly. Jun Changshao. Everyone was stunned. Looking at the girl, wasn't she the Iron Bone disciple who was participating in the culinary competition? However, Lu Wancher was no longer a human, but a mermaid. She sat at the bow of the boat, and her lower body's fishtail gently stirred the water surface. In an instant, everyone's eyes were locked on her, and no one would care about the 10 whales that were spurting out spring water. Many martial artists recovered from their ocean fantasy and looked at Lu Wancher, who was cooking. Smelling the rich fragrance of the dishes, they exclaimed, "So fragrant." When their souls entered the ocean world, it was an illusion where countless fragrances gathered. The 10 whales were the fragrance of the dishes cooked by the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants, and they were the most dazzling. Unfortunately, when the fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes wafted over and barged into everyone's illusion, she turned into a mermaid and took away the glory that belonged to the Ouyang clan's direct descendants. Then there was a problem. Why would Sect Master Jun appear in their illusion and sing so ostentatiously? Even if he wanted to forcefully add a scene, he shouldn't do it like this. The fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes wafted out, invading everyone's hearts. After the 10 judges smelled it, they started discussing with each other, and their eyes were filled with praise. Just by the fragrance wafting out, Lu Wancher had already suppressed everyone and became the most dazzling existence. Yang Jun was so excited that his hands were trembling. After eating the Kung Pao chicken, he had a better understanding of his daughter's culinary skills. However, after seeing her cook with his own eyes, he realized that what he understood was just the tip of the iceberg. The fragrance of the dishes cooked by the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants was suppressed by her alone. This girl is not simple. Just by smelling it, I am already drooling. If I eat it, I will definitely have a rich aftertaste. The spectating martial artists were all tempted by the fragrance of Lu Wancher's dishes, and all of them were about to drool. Damn it! The 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants were unwilling, but they could not do anything because the dishes were about to come out of the wok, and they could not make any adjustments to suppress Lu Wancher. The other contestants were full of admiration for this 11 or 12-year-old girl. To be able to suppress the 10 Ouyang clan's direct descendants in the first round of the competition, she was definitely very powerful. Chapter 524. Soon. The contestants finished their dishes one after another and put them on the plates. The Shen family sent someone over to seal the dishes with special equipment and then arrange them on the stage. According to the rules of the past culinary competitions, after the contestants finished their work, the 10 judges would taste it one by one and give the scores. Swish! Swish! The dishes made by the 10 direct descendants of the Ouyang family were also done. However, they were unhappy that Lu Wancher had taken the limelight. In the past culinary competitions, especially in the first round, the Ouyang family was always the center of attention. But now, everyone was staring at Lu Wancher. No one looked at the direct descendants of the Ouyang family. They were used to being noticed. Suddenly being ignored would definitely be a big blow. However, the blow had just begun. When Lu Wancher was the last to finish cooking, the 10 judges came to the display table and stood in front of Lu Wancher's dish. The direct descendants of the Ouyang family turned green. This the elder of the Shen family was a little confused. In the past culinary competitions, they would taste the first dish. Why were they tasting the last dish today? The aroma left behind when Lu Wancher was cooking was too tempting. The 10 judges couldn't wait to taste it. What was so special about the dish? They gently picked up the chopsticks and picked up the tender dish. They were very careful during the whole process. They were afraid that they would make a mistake and waste such good food. The more cautious the judges were, the more anxious the martial artists were. They were eager to see what kind of expression they would have after eating. Whether a dish was delicious or not, facial expressions were the most important. Slowly, the 10 judges put the food in their mouths. They only sniffed the rising white smoke and they were already infatuated. Steady. They had to be steady. They were big shots. They had to resist the temptation of delicious food. The 10 judges opened their mouths and ate. The taste buds on their tongues opened and they tasted it carefully. Swish, in an instant, they stood on the spot as if they were struck by lightning. What happened? This reaction is too exaggerated. Everyone said with their eyes wide open. After a while, the 10 judges who seemed to have been struck by lightning relaxed their facial muscles. Their souls seemed to have gone through 1,000 twists and turns under the stirring of the delicious food. At this moment, thousands of words couldn't describe their feelings. They could only exclaim in unison, "This dish is too delicious." The martial artists' mouths twitched. The more exaggerated the judges were, the more their hearts itched. They couldn't wait to grab the chopsticks and taste it too. Swish! Someone took another bite. Their souls were hit again, as if they were about to float out of the falling star continent and into the distant nebula M78. An old man in his 60s or 70s was in tears as he ate. At that moment, it was as if he had returned to the time when he was young and tasted his mother's cooking. The old man wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and asked with trembling hands, "What's the name of this dish?" This was indeed a home-cooked meal. She had also tried it for everyone in the Iron Bone sect. Everyone. Elder Shen said, "Don't be emotional, hurry up and score." 10 points. 10 points. In the end, the 10 judges all gave a perfect score. Elder Shen said loudly, "Lu Wancher's home-cooked dish has a total of 100 points." The spectator stands were in an uproar. 100 points. That was a full mark. It wasn't that there hadn't been a full mark in the previous culinary competitions, but it was only in the final stage. A full mark in the first round was definitely the best in history. Sigh. Sect leader Jun shrugged and said, "It's not challenging at all." Although Ouyang Jun was also very happy, he calmed down and said, "Sect leader Jun, this first round is just a test. Many contestants haven't shown their trump cards yet." Trump cards? Jun Changshao smiled and said, "Dudu also has one." The Chinese cookbook gathered the essence of Chinese cuisine. There were countless dishes in it. Any one of them, stewed cabbage, was a trump card. One day, I will let Chinese cuisine blossom in this foreign world, literary and artistic. Lu Wancher's home-cooked dish gave a full mark evaluation, leaving the contestants stunned. But, the direct descendants of the Ouyang family all had ugly expressions. Their Ouyang family had participated in this kind of full mark evaluation every time, and they had only received it once. An illegitimate daughter could do it. This was undoubtedly a fierce slap to their face. Everyone. Elder Shen said, "Please continue to evaluate the other contestants' works." Sigh. The old man who was moved to tears shook his head and said, "After eating this girl's dish, eating other dishes will definitely be tasteless." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Fortunately, this wasn't a one-round competition. Otherwise, the Iron Bone disciple would have won the championship. Since there were rules in the culinary competition, the 10 judges could only continue to taste. Because of the pearls in front, after tasting each contestant's dish, the scores given were generally not high. The range was between 40 and 60 points. In the end, after a series of statistics and calculations, the 100 contestants who scored more than 50 points successfully advanced to the second round. Oh my god! Someone said, in the past, if you want to advance to the second round, you have to get at least 70 points. Now, 50 points is enough to advance. Are the contestants this time so weak? It's not that they're weak. It's that the Iron Bone Disciples' dish is too delicious. Look at the 10 judges, they're all shaking their heads and frowning after eating other people's dishes. Does this mean that their mouths are spoiled by home-cooked dishes, causing the other contestants to have low scores? Definitely. The eliminated contestants walked down the stage with bitter faces. The 200 stoves were removed in the shortest time, and the second round continued. The 10 direct descendants of the Ouyang family who successfully advanced came to the front of the stoves again. However, intentionally or unintentionally, they glanced at Lu Wancher, and their eyes were filled with seriousness. The first round was just a test. The real competition had just begun. The other contestants who advanced were also adjusting their states and preparing for the next round. The second round was more brutal. Because only 10 people could advance to compete for the final championship. Second round. After the contestants were in position, Elder Shen said loudly, "Choose one of the 10 ingredients in the basket and cook your signature dish." The time limit is still 1 hour. Everyone could do whatever they wanted in the first round, but there were restrictions in the second round. In the basket, there were 10 ingredients that ordinary people could eat, such as cows, sheep, pigs, fish, and so on. Lu Wancher held her chin and thought for a while. Then, she placed the lively carp on the chopping board from the water basin. Sweet and sour carp. Jun Changxiao's lips curled into a smile. The promotion of Chinese culture started today. Chapter 525. The second round began. Many contestants chose one out of the 10 ingredients and started cooking. As expected, Lu Wancher, who got full marks in the first round, became the focus of everyone's attention. She chose a carp. Everyone was looking forward to it. Lu Wancher used the back of the knife to hit the fish's head, causing it to faint and stop jumping. Luckily, there were no fish lovers, or else there would be strong condemnation. Shwa! Shwa! Lu Wancher skillfully removed the scales, internal organs, and cheeks. Then, she turned the carp into a knife every 2.5 centimeters and sprinkled all kinds of seasonings into it. Whoosh whoosh! She started a fire and added oil. After the oil heated up, she added all kinds of ingredients and put the marinated carp into the pot. The martial artists who had a good understanding of cooking were confused because this was the first time they saw such a way of cooking fish. Whoosh whoosh! The other contestants also controlled the flames and started cooking. Most of them chose meat ingredients and no one used fish. In terms of taste buds, the taste of beef, sheep, chicken, and duck was obviously more outstanding than fish. The direct descendants of the Ouyang clan also chose their signature dishes and started cooking seriously. As the contestants started cooking, the fragrance that had just dissipated gathered again and was even stronger than before. The spectators were drooling. However, Lu Wancher was more low-key this time and did not smell anything from the beginning to the end. Time passed slowly. The martial artists continued to cook their signature dishes and placed them on the table. The direct descendants of the Ouyang clan also finished their dishes. They stood with their hands behind their back and looked proud. These were their trump cards. Once they were shown, they would definitely get a good ranking. Lu Wancher's sweet and sour carp was also finished. It was placed on the plate in a U shape and looked like it was frozen. What dish is this? There's not even soup. Everyone started to discuss. Because the first round got full marks, the 10 judges still didn't care about the order of arrival. They all stood in front of the display table where the sweet crisp carp was placed. The old man who was moved to tears was the first to pick up his chopsticks and pick up the shiny golden fish. He used a bit of force and picked up a piece of meat and golden sugar. The others also started to move. Then, they slowly put it in their mouths and chewed slowly. I really did not want to describe the changes on their faces because I was already at a loss for words. You guys can imagine it yourselves. Crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, sweet and sour. After the old man thought about it, he raised his thumb and said, "Wonderful, wonderful." The other judges nodded in agreement. Someone even exclaimed, "This is the first time I've heard that fish can be cooked this way and that it tastes so delicious." The incomparably arrogant direct descendants of the Ouyang clan felt their hearts turn cold when they saw them praising him one after another. Could it be 10 points? 10 points. The Ouyang family's direct descendants' guess was very accurate. The 10 judges all gave 10 points. Lu Wancher's sweet and sour carp got full marks again. Oh my god! Full marks again. No one has ever gotten full marks in the first and second rounds of the culinary competition. Everyone was stunned. Ouyang Jun, who was very worried about his daughter, almost jumped up in excitement. On the other hand, Sect leader Jun's face was calm. In his opinion, getting full marks for Chinese delicacies was just a normal thing to do. As usual, the judges tasted the specialties of the other contestants one by one and gave a score between 40 and 60 points. Among the Ouyang family's direct descendants who had vowed to get a good ranking, only one person had broken through 61 points. There was no other way. Lu Wancher's 2 dishes tasted too good. After tasting her dishes, it was inevitable that they would feel a little dull to judge the others. In the end, according to the score, Lu Wancher once again got full marks and entered the final round. The other 9 contestants were all from the Ouyang family's direct descendants. The Iron Bone disciple is going to fight against 9 people from the Ouyang family alone. If she didn't participate, this culinary competition would definitely be a civil war between the Ouyang family's direct descendants. Everyone was in a heated discussion. At the same time, they were also looking forward to what the Iron Bone disciples' next dish would make and what kind of expression the judges would have. The eliminated contestants shook their heads and left. They couldn't break the Ouyang family's monopoly, but they admired Lu Wancher, who got full marks twice. Girl, do your best. In the third round, there were only 10 contestants left. This was the final round. Only one contestant could win the culinary competition. Phew! Lu Wancher let out a long sigh of relief. Getting the top 10 in the culinary competition was equivalent to holding the ticket to the God of Cookery competition. Then, next, I will fight for the championship. Thud! Lu Wancher stood in front of the stove and closed her eyes. At that moment, she seemed to feel that her senior brothers were floating down from the sky and standing beside her, cheering for her with smiles on their faces. Swish! Lu Wancher opened her eyes and said firmly, I will also fight for the Iron Bone clan. Achoo! Iron Bone. Li Qingyang sneezed and said, why do I feel like someone is cursing me behind my back? Senior brother, I have the same feeling, Xiao Ziji said. Su Xiaoma, who was sitting on the railing in front of the main hall, looked in the direction of King City and said, today is the day of the culinary competition. Du will definitely shine. Junior sister Lu's culinary skills are so strong. She will definitely win the championship without any suspense, Li Fei said firmly. Sigh. Su Xiaoma sighed and said, it's a pity that I can't personally witness Du winning the championship. The third round of the culinary competition was very harsh, because the Shen family only provided one kind of meat for the contestants to cook. Iron nail beef. Seeing the meat, the Ouyang family frowned. Jun Changshao said in surprise, could it be the meat of a higher-grade iron nail bull beast? That's right, Ouyang Jun said. Tsk tisk. Jun Changshao said, this is a fierce beast with a very strong defense. Its meat is also very hard. It is a bit difficult to cook it. Ouyang Jun said solemnly, although the meat quality of the iron nail beef is not bad, it is extremely particular in terms of heat control and ingredients. If there is a slight mistake, it will be difficult to make a delicacy. This guy was quite professional. When the iron nail beef was served, the direct descendants of the Ouyang family all frowned. I didn't expect that in the final round, the Shen family would actually use the most difficult to cook iron nail beef as the main ingredient. A culinary expert said solemnly. To make a delicacy from the iron nail beef, not only did it test one's skills, it also relied on luck. Final round. The Shen family elder dragged out his voice and announced, "Start now." If it was the first 2 rounds, the contestants would start preparing as soon as the announcement ended. However, the 9 direct descendants of the Ouyang family fell into deep thought. The iron nail beef was quite tricky. They had to think clearly about how to cook it. They could not be reckless. Shwa! Lu Wancher, who was behind, waved her hands and held 2 kitchen knives. She started to cut the iron nail beef horizontally and vertically. Everyone was stunned. It's starting already? Chapter 526. Because of the uniqueness of the iron nail beef, the 9 Ouyang clan's direct descendants didn't start immediately after the competition started. Instead, they considered how to cook it. While they were thinking hard, Lu Wancher picked up 2 kitchen knives and began to skillfully dissect the iron nail beef into several pieces. She chose 70% lean meat and 30% fat meat. After a round of fine and rough cutting, the minced meat was the size of a rice grain. "Are you going to make beef dumplings?" Jun Changshao held his chin and said. No. The dumpling filling should be more minced." Could it be? Jun Changshao suddenly thought of a dish and secretly said, "Dudu wants to make braised lion's head in brown sauce?" Not bad. Lu Wancher wanted to make braised lion's head in brown sauce. This was a famous Huayang dish, also known as 4 happiness meatballs. Shwa! After chopping the iron nail beef, Lu Wancher followed the steps of the recipe and added various ingredients to the fat and lean meat. Then, she made them into meatballs. Whoosh whoosh, the firewood was raised and a large amount of oil was poured into the pot. After the oil heated up, she began to fry the meatballs in the pot. What dish is this? Meat buns? Looking at the meatball-shaped beef, the spectating martial artists were at a loss. The 9 Ouyang clan's direct descendants also began to cook after thinking hard. To be honest, they had no idea at all. The main reason was that the meat quality of the iron nail beef was too special. If there was a slight mistake, they would definitely not be able to make a delicious dish. Back to Lu Wancher. When the beef meatballs were fried in the oil until they were golden brown, she fished them out. She poured away most of the oil and left a small portion. She added in the vegetables and carrots and stir-fried them slightly. Then, she poured in the fried meatballs and added soy sauce, water, and cooking wine. After simmering for 20 minutes, the beef meatballs were cooked. She opened the pot lid and continued to add ingredients. At this time, a fragrance wafted out from the pot. Many martial artists subconsciously sniffed and their entire bodies suddenly became intoxicated. So fragrant! Jun Changshao was surprised. He had eaten braised lion's head in brown sauce before. He didn't think it tasted so good. Could it be because of the iron nail beef that it emitted such a fragrant smell? Shwa! Lu Wancher poured the 4 beef meatballs into the plate and poured oil on top. A famous Huayang dish, 4 happiness meatballs, was ready to be served. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the plate of meat and juices, and they subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The eyes of the 10 judges also lit up. If it weren't for the fact that the other 9 contestants hadn't finished yet, they couldn't wait to go and have a taste. Lu Wancher, who was originally a little reserved, went through the first 2 warm-ups. Thus, a 4 happiness meatball was soon out of the oven. The face of the Ouyang family's direct descendant was extremely ugly. This was because when the fragrance wafted out, their mental states were disturbed. Especially when he saw the impatient look of the 10 judges, he secretly guessed that if he ate a bite, he might even have to give full marks. When martial artists fought, the greatest taboo was to be distracted. Similarly, a chef who was cooking could not be distracted. However, with Lu Wancher's delicacies in front of them, it was very difficult for them to control their mentality. An hour later, the 9 members of the Ouyang family's direct line of descent finished their dishes one after another in a state of distraction. However, all of them hung their heads dejectedly. How the dishes were made, they already had an answer in their hearts. The 10 dishes were placed on the display table. The Chen family's elder had yet to speak, and the judges all gathered in front of the red braised lion head. Some picked up chopsticks, and some picked up spoons. The elder took a bite first, and his body suddenly stiffened. Every piece of beef was wrapped in juices. Not only was it fresh and fragrant, it was also very chewy. The meat of the iron nail beef was tough. If the heat was not controlled well, it would be very hard to cook, and the shredded meat would even get stuck in the teeth. When Lu Wancher made the 4 happiness meatball, she also fully considered the characteristics of the meat. She chopped it up, fried it first, and then boiled it, allowing the juices to seep into every piece of beef, thus maintaining the elasticity of the ingredients and making it fresh and delicious. After tasting it carefully, the elder evaluated, shocking. Delicacies of the world. Chilan liver and phoenix marrow. Jade plate delicacies. Universally praised. The 10 judges gave their evaluations one after another, and all kinds of idioms that praised the delicacies came out of their mouths. The spectating martial artists' eyes were filled with intense envy and jealousy. From the fragrance of the 3rd menu, they could tell that it was definitely a top delicacy. If they could have a bite, they would definitely be extremely happy. Everyone. The Shen family's elders said, let's grade 10 points. 10 points. The Ouyang family's direct descendant really knew the future. Lu Wancher's 3rd dish was still a perfect score. This undoubtedly created a new record in the culinary competition. 3 rounds of competition, 3 perfect scores. Of course, the competition was not over yet, because the 9 dishes made by the Ouyang family's direct descendant had not been graded. In fact, the martial artists knew that there was no need to grade. Since it was a competition, it had to be fair. After the 10 judges rinsed their mouths, they began to try the other 9 dishes. In the end, the 9 dishes made by the Ouyang family's direct descendant all got 0 points. When the last person's grade came out, everyone was completely dumbfounded. The Ouyang family that had focused on cooking for hundreds of years actually got 0 points in the culinary competition, and all 9 of them together. This was too unbelievable. There was nothing unbelievable about it. The Ouyang family's direct descendant's state of mind was disturbed, and he could not cook in peace. There were also frequent mistakes in the heat control and ingredients. Although he managed to complete it in the end, it did not reach the standard at all. If it was other food, even if there were mistakes, the taste would not be too bad. But the key was that this was the iron nail beef. Any slight flaw would affect the taste, so the 10 judges could only give 0 points. The 3rd round ended. Lu Wancher won again with a perfect score, and she became the champion. When she went up to the stage to receive the award, she said excitedly, "Here, I want to thank my sect master, my senior brothers and sisters. Without them, I, Lu Wancher, would not be here today." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "This girl, she really used the acceptance speech I gave her." Yang Jun, who was standing at the side, was filled with bitterness. If he had taken care of his daughter from the start and carefully nurtured her, perhaps she should be thanking him the most. Of course. Lu Wancher held the trophy and said, "I also want to thank my father. He was the one who allowed me to be born in this world. He made me understand that by pairing food and ingredients together, we can make delicious dishes that will leave a lasting aftertaste." Yang Jun was stunned. Gradually, his eyes became moist. "My daughter, as long as you can forgive your father's past mistakes, I should be the one thanking you. Lastly, I also want to thank the Ouyang family. Without them making things difficult and humiliating, I would not have left the Ouyang family. I would not have wandered outside, and I would not have." Speaking of this, Lu Wancher could not help but cry. However, she still had a smile on her face. After slightly adjusting her emotions, she said proudly, I am fortunate to become a disciple of the Iron Bone clan. This girl. Jun Changshao shook his head and said in his heart, I am also proud of you. On this day, the culinary competition ended. Lu Wancher got 3 perfect scores and became an unsurpassable existence in the culinary competition. The 9 direct descendants of the Ouyang family all got 0 points and would forever be nailed on the pillar of shame. On this day, after Lu Wancher received the award, she gave a speech that deeply touched the students of the Gathering Heroes Hall. Iron Bone Clan. What kind of sect was it? It could make a girl with extraordinary culinary skills feel a strong sense of pride when she shouted out the name of the sect. I've decided. Huo Ling said in her heart, I want to join the Iron Bone clan. Chapter 527. Lu Wancher was the champion of the culinary competition. By right, the competition should have ended by now, but the martial artists watching the competition did not leave. Because there was still one more segment, the final stage. The contestants' dishes would be auctioned publicly, and the highest bidder would get to taste it. That's right. Just one bite. The 10 judges had given such a high evaluation to the braised lion's head. Many martial artists must be itching to try it. The Ouyang family's 9 dishes had all scored 0 points. Even if they had to pay, they would not try it. Sect leader Jun, who had planned to leave with Lu Wancher, heard Ouyang Jun say that there was still such a segment, so he stood there and waited with interest. Not long later, the Shen family's elder walked up the stage again and said loudly, I believe everyone can't wait. Now, the herb-picking segment of the final stage will be officially auctioned. The starting price is 10,000 taels. 10,000 taels? Jun Changshao said in surprise, who would have the money to burn and spend 1 spirit stone to eat a dish? Poverty limited sect leader Jun's imagination. When the auction started, many martial artists from the big families rushed to bid. In a short time, the price rose from 10,000 to 100,000 taels. Sect leader Jun's mouth twitched. 100,000 taels to eat a dish. The rich people in Monarch City were really showy. Under normal circumstances, no one would be willing to spend 100,000 taels to eat a dish. However, Lu Wancher was a contestant who got full marks in all 3 rounds. The 10 judges were all experts in food. With such a high evaluation, the food was definitely delicious. It was definitely worth it to spend a lot of money to eat it. The first martial artist got the right to taste the braised lion's head with 100,000 taels. He took a small spoon and took a bite. He stood there, and his soul seemed to have flown out of the 9 heavens. Oh my God! After a while, that martial artist shouted, it's really too delicious. Isn't this too exaggerated? No, no. I must win the next auction and see what's so special about the champion dish. As a result, the wealthy armament cultivators continued to outbid each other. In the end, the braised lion's head was tasted by more than 10 people, and they got 2 million taels in total. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Duda's dishes were so popular that they could open a restaurant. He was more than welcome. None of the martial cultivators who had eaten it were not shocked by the heavens. None of them were not left with a rich aftertaste. Furthermore, they believed that if they were able to spend money to eat a mouthful of it, it was really super worth it. The organizers saw that Lu Wancher's dishes were so valuable, so they took out the previous home-cooked dishes and sweet and sour carp to auction again. The first 2 dishes were already cold, so the texture and taste were definitely not as good as before. But many cultivators were still bidding tirelessly, all for the sake of tasting the food cooked by the champion. Sect Master Jun, the Shen family elder, handed over the spatial ring and said, according to the rules of the cooking competition, the dishes cooked by the champion will be auctioned off, and the profit will be split 50-50 with the organizer. This is the 3 million taels that your disciple deserves. That was to say, Lu Wancher's 3 dishes were sold for a total of 6 million taels. Even the home-cooked dishes that she often cooked in the sect were sold for 1 million taels. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and he said, "Do cooks in the sect every day. According to this price, wouldn't I and my disciples eat billions of yuan? No, no. Opening a restaurant had to be considered as a serious matter." Lu Wancher won the cooking competition and got full marks in all 3 rounds. The 3 dishes were sold for a sky-high price, and the news spread in the imperial city in a short time. Without a doubt, this 11 or 12-year-old girl would definitely leave a heavy mark in the history of southwest Yangzhou. The Ouyang family that had been cooking for generations had unfortunately become a foil. The 9 direct descendants got 0 points and would become the laughingstock of others. First, they were smashed and then defeated in the field that they were good at. The Ouyang clan had completely taken a tumble. The next day, the cultivators in the city were still discussing the cooking competition. Sect Master Jun left the imperial city with Lu Wancher and Ouyang Jun at dawn. They had spent half a month participating in the competition, so it was time to return to the sect. Sect Master. Lu Wancher didn't understand. Didn't you say that you were going to recruit disciples in the academy? You didn't even get one and you are leaving. Jun Changxiao said, "Don't force things. Everything depends on fate." Oh. Lu Wancher understood. The 3 of them walked along the street and out of the city gate. On the way, many cultivators looked at them with respect. This sect master that came from a small 9th-grade county had done things that they admired in just a few days in the imperial city. "Teacher Jun." Just at this moment, a shout came from behind as Hualing quickly caught up. Jun Changxiao stopped and said, "You don't have lessons today." Huff huff. Hualing stopped and put his hands on his knees. He bent over and gasped for breath. "Teacher. Teacher Jun, I want to join the Iron Bone clan." The surrounding martial cultivators' eyes were filled with astonishment. This was the direct descendant of the Hua family, one of the 8 great families in the imperial city. In terms of strength, he wasn't weaker than a 4th-rate sect. They didn't expect him to take the initiative to join a sect. "Why do you want to join?" Jun Changxiao asked. Hualing gradually calmed his breathing and said loudly, "Following Teacher Jun, I can learn real skills. And following Teacher Jun, I can become a strong person. And following Teacher Jun, I can eat good food." Pfft. Lu Wancher covered her mouth and laughed. Jun Changxiao said seriously, "It's not impossible to join Iron Bone, but no matter how noble your identity is, as long as you join the sect, you will be a normal disciple." "Understood." Hualing shouted. He had the idea of joining Iron Bone yesterday and even went back to his family to discuss it with his father. He insisted on his opinion and wanted to join no matter what, even if he was a disciple who did odd jobs. "You are now a student of the academy. Teacher Jun, I have already applied to graduate early from the dean." "There was such a thing?" Jun Changxiao said, "Since that's the case, follow me back to Iron Bone." "Yes." Hualing hurriedly cupped his hands at Lu Wancher and said, "Little senior sister, please accept junior brother's bow." This brat really knew how to flatter. "Teacher Jun." Another shout came from the city gate. The students of Gathering Heroes Hall all ran over and shouted, "We also want to join Iron Bone." Chu Xiaonan was among them. At first, he refused, but yesterday, he was called home by his father and threatened with a whip, saying, "My son, you must join Iron Bone." The talented direct descendants of the big families in the royal city all shouted that they wanted to join Iron Bone, making the passers-by dumbfounded. "Why should we join? If we follow Teacher Jun, we can become outstanding." The students of Gathering Heroes Hall shouted in unison. "Since that's the case," Jun Changxiao said, "hurry up and line up." Schwa! Schwa! 39 students of Gathering Heroes Hall lined up. Jun Changxiao looked at the royal city and smiled, saying, "Dean Situ, I will take your students away." Situ Haoyun, who was in the academy, shook his head helplessly. He let him be an honorary teacher to teach the students, but after teaching for a few days, he abducted all the students. Patriarchs of the big families. Jun Changshao said again, I will take your direct descendants back to the sect for training. If they can't become outstanding in the future, they can come to the sect to settle accounts with Jun at any time. Sect leader Jun, a deep voice came from the city, my son is arrogant, and I will have to trouble you in the future. It's Patriarch Chu. Everyone exclaimed in unison. Farewell. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and returned to Iron Bone with the direct descendants of the big families in the Heavenly Mandate Royal City. Although the patriarchs of the big families didn't come to see them off, they also released their spiritual senses and watched their direct descendants gradually disappear. They said to themselves, I hope this decision is right. Chapter 528. Out of the 40 students from Juying Tang, 39 of them left with Jun Changshao. The only one who didn't go was Princess Red Lotus. She stood on top of the academy building and watched the students leave. Her gaze was complicated. Red Lotus. Situ Haoyan said, haven't you thought it through? No, Princess Red Lotus said. Situ Haoyan shook his head and said, in my opinion, you want to stay and take care of the city for your father. Princess Red Lotus was silent. City Lord Mu had no children. She was his only daughter. Now that he was old, his ambition had faded. He only wanted to pursue martial arts. Therefore, he left all the matters in the city to Mu Honglian. Managing the royal city is not an easy task. Situ Haoyan said, City Lord Mu shouldn't have entrusted you with such a bold task. Princess Red Lotus smiled and said, Sect leader Jun is so young, but he can run a sect so well. How difficult would it be for me to manage a city? How could a sect be compared to a royal city? Situ Haoyan shook his head and said, actually, you can go to Iron Bone to cultivate first. After you finish your studies, you can come back and take over the royal city. Princess Red Lotus said, I still need my father to decide. She also wanted to join Iron Bone and learn advanced martial arts. However, without her father's permission, she couldn't leave the royal city without permission. Situ Haoyan muttered in his heart, if your father knew about sect leader Jun, he would probably take you there himself. What did he mean? He was a dual king of swordsmanship and a martial arts master. He was a son-in-law who couldn't be found anywhere. He could also make up for his drunken act. The students of Juying Tang were taken away by Jun Changshao. The hearts of many students in the Heavenly Mandate Academy followed. Instructor. A student mustered up his courage and said, can I apply to graduate in advance? Why? I also want to join the Iron Bone clan. Dean. In the meeting hall, the vice dean said with a straight face, many students are applying to graduate in advance to join the Iron Bone clan. Then let them be, Situ Haoyan said. The vice president broke down and said, there are at least 3,000 people who applied. Situ Haoyan said seriously, students have their own choices. As teachers, we should support them. The vice president said, all right. As a result, all the students who applied for early graduation were approved. All of a sudden, many young elites packed up their luggage and headed for the Azure Sun County. When the various sects offices outside the academy received the news, they immediately collapsed. Many of the students were selected by them in advance, and they had used countless methods to recruit them. Now that they were all going to join Iron Bone, wasn't this like drawing water with a sieve? AI. One of the sect elders sighed and said, with so many outstanding talents entering Iron Bone, once they rise, they will be unstoppable. How could he say that? Just like how Iron Bone became stronger in the future because of the support of the students in the academy. Why are there so many students carrying their luggage out of the city? I just received news that they all applied to graduate early to join Iron Bone. You can even apply to graduate in advance? The warriors in the city were dumbfounded. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was the holy temple of martial arts in southwest Yangzhou. Countless young geniuses hoped to enter the academy to cultivate. They even hoped to stay and continue their studies after graduation. Applying to graduate early? What kind of operation was this? Of course. There were also warriors who could guess that so many students chose to graduate early to join Ironbone. This meant that this sect could make them stronger. The thought-provoking thing was, the students of Jueying Tang also joined Ironbone. These people were all from big families, and their strength was not weaker than 4th or 5th-rate sections. Why would they be willing to let their direct descendants join a 6th or 7th-rate sect? There was no denying it. The head of Ironbone was very powerful. But the sect was just at the beginning stage. Sending their direct descendants to cultivate there was obviously a gamble. Just as the warriors in the city were fighting over each other, another piece of important news came out. The Southwest Yangzhou Certification Headquarters had released the latest sect potential ranking, and the sect ranked first was shockingly Ironbone Clan. What made everyone's eyes widen was that not only did this sect directly become the top sect, but their potential evaluation was also top 3. Top 3? Oh my god, Ironbone is top 3. The royal city was completely in an uproar. Since the establishment of the certification headquarters, the highest potential evaluation of a sect in southwest Yangzhou was only top 1. When many warriors were eating and chatting, they often joked, "I don't know if I can see a top 2 sect in my lifetime." What used to be a joke was now a reality. No. It was even higher. Because it was not top 2, but top 3. A sect with such potential was rare even in the entire Starfall continent. The ranking of potential sects released by the certification headquarters was not only spread in the royal city, but also in every city in southwest Yangzhou at the fastest speed. Ironbone is top 3. How is this possible? Even the Xian sacred sect, which is now famous throughout the world, was only rated as second in potential. After all the martial cultivators in the city saw the list, there wasn't a single one of them who didn't have monstrous waves in their hearts. In the hall of the Chu family, the Chu family leader laughed heartily. When he let his son join Ironbone, the entire family was against it, but he endured the enormous pressure and persevered. Now that Ironbone's potential was top 3, it meant that his decision was very correct. As for the group of elders who opposed, they were all silent. The Hua family leader and the other family leaders were also in a good mood, because their direct descendants had become disciples of this top 3 sect. Families that could establish themselves in the royal city and not decline for many years were not fools. The Ironbones sect had risen in such a short period of time. If Jun Changshao didn't have any real talent, it would have been impossible for him to do so. Therefore, he had let his direct disciples join the Ironbones sect with the mentality of a gambler. They gambled correctly. Top 3 Ironbones' future was limitless. Head Branch Leader. In the Devil Fiend sect branch, a subordinate hurriedly reported, "I just received news that the latest ranking of potential sects is out." The head branch leader said impatiently, "Is such a small matter worth reporting?" The subordinate said, reporting to head branch leader, "The sect at the top of this ranking is Ironbone Upright Sect." The head branch leader said in surprise, "Is it top 3 or top 2? In his opinion, a sect that could occupy the top of the ranking of potential sects in southwest Yangzhou had to be at least this level. The subordinate hurriedly said, reporting to head branch leader, "The certification hall gave it top 3. Top 3. The head branch leader said, "As expected, wait." His expression froze, saying, "Are you talking about top 3 or top 3? Top 3. The head branch leader stood up and said in disbelief, "Ironbone's potential is top 3. Correct." The subordinate said, "Bullshit." The head branch leader said, "How can there be top 3 sects in southwest Yangzhou where birds don't shit?" The subordinate's mouth twitched, saying, "It's written very clearly on the ranking, it's top 3. Chapter 529. Why did the certification headquarters suddenly announce Ironbone's top 3 potential to the public? That was because Jun Changshao had agreed. Wasn't this guy low-key? Why did he suddenly become high-profile? Before, He was low-key because he was afraid of causing unnecessary trouble. Now that he had the cultivation of the sword and martial king, he could fight against the peak martial king who was about to enter Wuhuan. Naturally, he could be high-profile. Not to mention, he was also an honorary instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Jun Changshao didn't believe that in the southwest Yangzhou, anyone would dare to provoke him. No. Absolutely no. After confirming that Iron Bone was in the top 3, the leader of the Demon Fiend Sect division was shocked for a long time. Murdering God Hall also widened their eyes after receiving the news. The top 3 sections. They definitely had unlimited potential. Division Leader. An expert said, "There is news from the Imperial City that the leader of Iron Bone has become an honorary instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy." The Murdering God Hall division leader's mouth twitched. Previously, he instigated the evil sects of Huayang County to besiege Iron Bone and was scared off by a Wuhuan. This made him very unhappy. Originally, he wanted to find time to call an expert from the headquarters for a meeting. But now, he could only forcibly dispel the idea. Not to mention that the top 3 sects were protected by the certification headquarters. Just the identity of an honorary instructor of the Heavenly Mandate Academy was enough to make him think twice. Moreover, the expert said again, many of the direct descendants of the 8 major families of the Imperial City have also joined Iron Bone. The Murdering God Hall division leader's mouth twitched violently. This Iron Bone. A small division, really can't afford to offend them. Zhua Chaochuan, the governor of Xinyang County, also received the news. After seeing the sect's potential ranking, he frowned and said, "They are actually in the top 3. Governor." A strategist said, "The certification headquarters gave such a high evaluation. Iron Bone must have great potential. If they are allowed to develop, it will be difficult for our Xinyang County to annex Qingyang County." Zhua Chaochuan frowned even more. He had great ambitions to build a larger county. Qingyang County was also in the plan. Now that there was a top sect there, it was very tricky. Attack by force? Zhua Chaochuan didn't have the courage. He was wary of the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the major clans of the Imperial City. Damn it! Zhua Chaochuan said angrily, "If we had known that the Iron Bone would be such a huge hindrance, we would have taken down Azure Sun County a few years earlier." Now that things had come to this, it was useless to complain. The news of the Iron Bone being in the top 3 shocked southwest Yangzhou, as well as many forces and martial practitioners. In fact, this kind of shock could have come much earlier. However, at that time, sect leader Jun wanted to keep a low profile, so he suppressed it for a long time. Defending Green Sun City made the martial artists of southwest Yangzhou remember the infamous Iron Bone, and the potential 3 graders certification made everyone remember it in their hearts. In the wilderness, Jun Changshao and Lu Wancher rode on the Hurricane Wolf and traveled slowly. The Ouyang clan and Hualing had hired many carriages and were chasing after them. So comfortable. Jun Changshao opened his arms and shouted lazily. During the trip to the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City, Lu Wancher not only won the culinary competition but also recruited dozens of talented disciples. Of course, she was in a good mood. However, there were also regrets. After so many days, she had only completed a side task and only received 2,000 contribution points. The system said, the host should be content. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, great reputation. You have received 2,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 970210000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task and triggering the hidden reward. You have received the Supreme Grade Qualification Modification Liquid X1. It has been transported to the space ring. The system was speechless. Jun Changshao murmured, "It should be that the news of the potential 3 graders has spread in southwest Yangzhou. Not just in southwest Yangzhou. When the news spread like the wind and the entire Starfall continent knew, it would inevitably cause more discussion. The reputation was well deserved. Sect leader. Lu Wancher said, let's hurry up. After being out for so long, she was worried that the nutrition of her fellow disciples could not keep up and that they would all starve and lose weight. Needless to say, without Lu Wancher's food to feed them, the Iron Bone disciples were really on the verge of collapse. So much so that when Second's senior brother cooked, the food was tasteless. Many disciples squatted in the martial arts practice field and cried out in their hearts, "Do, come back quickly. No rush, no rush." Jun Changshao said, "It's rare for us to come out, so we should enjoy the scenery along the way." This guy was really not in a hurry. As long as he passed by a city, he would go in and play. Especially when he heard the martial artists talking about the Iron Bone and being shocked by the potential of the three graders, his face immediately lit up with pride. From being unknown to being famous, he was definitely filled with a sense of accomplishment. Sect leader Jun has come to our city. All of a sudden, someone shouted out loud. Sigh. He wanted to keep a low profile, but he was still discovered. Sect leader Jun swung his shiny black hair and made a confident and flirtatious pose. Where is he? Where is he? Here. I am Jun Changshao, all living beings, worship me. The martial artist who spoke earlier shouted, Sect leader Jun is recruiting disciples at Hua Man Lu. Everyone, quickly go and take a look. Let's go. Let's go. The passers-by on the street swarmed over, their eyes filled with excitement and worship. Jun Changshao was stunned. He was clearly standing on the street. How could he be in a building? Wait. Sect leader Jun's face immediately darkened. Someone is impersonating my name again. Is he still recruiting disciples? Hua Man Lu. It was a famous place to eat, drink, and play in the city. At this moment, the streets were filled with a sea of people, tens of thousands of heads moving. Regardless of whether it was martial artists or the most ordinary people, they were all looking up at the second floor, their eyes filled with incomparable worship. At the entrance of the restaurant, four black-robed men stood with their hands behind their backs, looking like bodyguards. This humble one is the head of the Ren family. Do I have the qualifications to go upstairs and meet sect leader Jun? A middle-aged man in embroidered clothes asked respectfully. You need to pay 10,000 taels to visit sect leader Jun, a black-robed man said proudly. No problem, no problem. The head of the Ren family hurriedly handed over 10,000 taels of silver. Go in. The black-robed men guarding the door all made way, but they still maintained their arrogance. If you want to see sect leader Jun, you have to pay 10,000 taels of silver. It's already very good to pay a little money to see this kind of sect leader who has the potential to be in the top 3. He is also the double king of sword and martial arts and a teacher of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Even if it was 50,000 taels of silver, there would be people rushing to see him, let alone 10,000 taels of silver. The martial artists on the street were all discussing. At this time, the heads of the families successively paid 10,000 taels of silver to be qualified to enter Hua Man Lu. Martial artists without money could only stand outside and watch, hoping to be lucky enough to see the face of the Iron Bone sect leader from the window on the second floor. Make way! Make way! Jun Changshao squeezed through the crowd. Because there were too many people, he couldn't get to the door for a long time, so he shouted, who dropped their banknotes on the ground. Mine! Mine! The people nearby all lowered their heads to look for the banknotes. Jun Changshao relied on the small gap left and successfully squeezed to the door of Hua Man Lu. Just as he was about to walk in, he was stopped by a black-robed man. Little guy, if you want to go in and meet sect leader Jun, you need to pay 10,000 taels of silver. The corner of sect leader Jun's mouth twitched. Fuck, I want to go in and see myself, but I still have to pay money. What's going on? Take it. Jun Changshao threw the 10,000 taels of silver over and successfully entered Hua Man Lu. He angrily said in his heart, this seat wants to see who has the guts to pretend to be me and recruit disciples in this city. Chapter 530. With Iron Bone's current prestige, no one in southwest Yangzhou dared to provoke him. However, someone dared to impersonate Jun Changshao. This was impossible. In a small city, there was a person who claimed to be sect leader Jun. He was openly recruiting disciples and had to spend 10,000 taels of silver to visit him. What a guy! Jun Changshao had just reached the second floor when he saw a few large round tables in the hall. There were 40 to 50 people sitting there. One person cost 10,000 taels of silver. There were so many of them. Fuck! This was definitely a new business opportunity. If he had no money to spend in the future, he could go around and earn money. Sect leader Jun thought as he found an empty seat and sat down. The big shots in the city subconsciously glanced at him and thought, this kid looks a little unfamiliar. He shouldn't be from the city. Little friend. Patriarch Ren whispered, what's your name? In his opinion, someone who could spend 10,000 taels of silver to visit sect leader Jun must have some power. Jun Changshao said, don't you see? The water of the Yellow River comes from the sky and flows to the sea. This humble one is Li Bai. My courtesy name is Tai Bai. My name is householder Qing Lian. The system said, is the pharmacy by Lian okay? The big shots in the restaurant twitched their mouths. This kid who hasn't even grown out his hair yet. Does he really think that he's a master? Patriarch Ren could see that this kid had some ability, so he ignored him and waited quietly for sect leader Jun Changshao didn't say anything. He grabbed the melon seeds on the plate and started eating. Paw! Paw! The sound of melon seeds cracking could be heard from the quiet second floor. The big shots sitting at the table frowned. This kid really has no manners. Patriarch Ren, who was sitting next to sect leader Jun, moved to the side. His eyes were full of disdain. Everyone. At this moment, a gentle voice sounded. Sorry to keep you waiting. At the top of the stairs on the third floor, a handsome young man in a white robe walked down while waving a paper fan. There was a small and exquisite waist token on his waist, with the words unyielding and unyielding engraved on it. Sect leader Jun. The big shots in the city stood up. They subconsciously glanced at Jun Changshao because this guy's clothes were very similar to sect leader Jun's. Fuck. This guy is impersonating me, and his impersonation is quite realistic. However, his appearance was a little awkward and could not be compared to his handsome self. The clan leaders of the various great clans all stood up, and only Jun Changshao remained seated. Thus, he successfully attracted a wave of hatred, causing anger to appear in the eyes of the crowd. Everyone could tolerate eating melon seeds in public. Now that sect head Jun was here, it was extremely disrespectful for him to remain seated. The young man in white raised an eyebrow and showed a hint of dissatisfaction. However, he still said in a gentlemanly manner, everyone, please sit. As everyone sat down, they did not forget to cast a cold glance at Jun Changshao. How could such an unruly person end up in Hua Man Lu? Slap! The sound of melon seeds cracking could be heard again. Family head Ren couldn't bear it anymore. He stood up and scolded, young masterly, in such a solemn occasion, if you want to eat melon seeds, please do it outside. Don't disturb others. What? Jun Changshao raised his orchid fingers and cracked another melon seed, saying, can't I eat it when it's on the table? Everyone's mouth twitched. The melons and fruits on the table were nothing more than decorations. Who would be as shameless as you to eat them? Sect head Jun Changshao said, you be the judge. The young man in white smiled, this friend might be greedy. There's no harm in eating some. Everyone, please don't mind. Sect head Jun's words are reasonable. Family head Ren sat down, but he still glared at Jun Changshao. Everyone. The young man in white said loudly, Jun accidentally passed by Gilan City and saw the purple aura lingering in the sky. He knew that this was a place where talents were born, so he decided to recruit disciples here. Everyone was overjoyed. Gilan City was not big. Although it was under the management of the Imperial City, it did not even have a city lord. To be able to receive such praise from sect head June, it was definitely an honor. Jun Changshao secretly muttered, "This brat really knows how to boast." The system said, "If he doesn't know how to boast, why would he treat everyone like monkeys?" That makes sense. However, since he dared to use this daddy's name to cheat people, he was destined to be a respectable person when he was alive. Sigh. The young man in white said, "It's a pity that my iron-boned sect can only recruit 10 disciples in Gilin City." Everyone was stunned. They were willing to spend 10,000 taels to go upstairs because they wanted to see sect head June's face, but they also wanted to send their own disciples to Iron-Boned Sect to cultivate. Now that there were 40 to 50 people here and he only recruited 10 disciples, this was troublesome. Sect head June, family head Ren said, "Can't we recruit more?" The young man in white shook his head. "When my Iron-Boned Sect recruits disciples, we pay attention to the right time, the right place, and the 5 elements. I did a divination just now. Gilin City is a place with good feng shui, but its aura is directed to the east, which is a taboo. Therefore, we can only recruit 10 disciples. Any more and we will be going against the law. The right place, the 5 elements. Directed to the east, and a taboo? Is this the sect head? This is a swindler in the Jianghu. I see." Everyone was enlightened. Family head Ren cupped his hands. "Sect head June is very knowledgeable, this Ren is very impressed." "Big brother, you believe this? Was your IQ eaten by a dog?" If this happened to me, the readers would definitely scold me for having a protagonist aura. Villains are all brainless. Of course. The young man in white said clearly, "When I recruit disciples, I mainly look at their birth characters. If they are compatible with my Iron-Boned Sect, I will naturally take them in." Damn. Definitely a swindler. Jun Changshao wanted to slap him. He endured it. He wanted to quietly watch this brat act pretentiously, quietly watch how this brat swindled people. The system said, "Host, are you sure you don't want to learn? Don't say it." This brat really wanted to learn. After all, he could use it to recruit disciples in the future. A genuine one learning swindling in front of a fake, it was really strange. Sect head June, family head Ren said, "I have brought the birth characters of a few direct descendants of my family. Please take a look and see if they are fated with the Iron-Boned Sect." Jun Changshao opened his mouth. Bringing the birth characters of the direct descendants of the family was so particular. Wait a minute. Why was there a silver note under the birth characters? I understand. It wasn't to see if they were fated with the Iron-Boned Sect, it was to use the silver note to secretly enter through the back door. The young man in white took the birth chart from Patriarch Ren, and the banknotes under it slipped into his sleeve. This method, this speed. Jun Changshao's heart was filled with admiration. Family head Ren. The young man in white looked at the birth characters seriously and said, "These 2 direct descendants of your family are compatible with my Iron-Boned Sect. I can take them in." "Thank you, Sect head June." Family head Ren said happily. The others looked at him enviously. The Iron-Boned Sect's direct descendants who had the potential to enter the top 3 would definitely have limitless achievements in the future. Sect head June, a family head said, "This is my son's birth characters, please take a look." When he handed it over, he stuffed a few silver notes under it. Because his method was clumsy, everyone present saw it clearly. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched violently. When he recruited disciples, most of them looked at him to confirm. This brat used his birth characters to swindle money. Damn, why didn't I think of that?